What is going on, everybody? It is your Wednesday night Sports Delight, the platform sports talk show. I am your boy Smooth, along with
Bunny.
when it's about sports.
It becomes our business.
And business just picked up. There we go. And my phone got some business going on too. There we go. You got the sounds everywhere. I like it. I like it. So, how are you doing?
Ooh, it's my first time all day taking a breath.
Uh-oh.
It's been a day, but thank God I'm here in one piece.
Now you know it's something when the first reaction you get is, whoo.
I'm just saying. I've been going since the sun came up and a whole lot has happened. And it wasn't all my fault. But I'm here. I'm happy. Hey, I'm representing the Blues today. Hey, hockey tonight, right? Playoff. Let's do this.
It is. We have a very big show for you in store. Once again, this is your Wednesday night Sports Delight. Make sure y'all go ahead and give us a follow. All information is on the screen, so you won't be saying, I don't know where to follow. Nope. No excuses. On the bottom of your screen. And have you noticed that I did a little change with the picture on the bottom? We've been having some crazy weather. So let me go ahead and show everybody how the ST.LOUIS was looking a couple days ago with all this crazy storms and everything.
Yes.
But then, now think about it. Today had a big old flash flood warning. And normally, you see the warning, it's cool.
Yes.
But for the first time in my lifetime that I can recall, on my phone, the alert said flash flood warning until like 4:30. This could be considered a life and death. And I'm like, whoa. What's really going on?
Did you see pictures? Because
in
the city, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Shouts out to Ms. Williams. She says it was a busy day for me too, and I work from home.
Wow, exactly. Hey, I understand. Everything I did today was at home. My last stop wasn't, and it still was crazy. So I understand, Ms. Williams.
Yeah. So for those watching for the first time, we've been doing this show 3 years strong, consistently every Wednesday with incredible guests. If you look at our first shows on Facebook to now, you'll see so much growth and change, and I love seeing progress.
I do.
And this show has definitely been something for those to watch and enjoy every Wednesday. We know sports are back in pretty much in full effect.
All the major ones.
It's very exciting times right now.
It is. I'm just making sure our listeners got us on Facebook. That's what I'm doing.
As we said before, business is definitely picking up. So with that being said, let's go right into the round table. So college football, the Pac-12 and the Big 12 decided, no football, cutting that short. Now the SEC still trying to stay alive.
Right, I'm like,
ACC doing the same thing as well. But will that really affect those conferences from continuing on?
The verdict's still out.
Yeah.
This would technically be in a regular college football season, still not spring training camp going on for them. Their first game is not officially for another 2 weeks, if not
I believe the 26th has been the target date.
Okay. A lot can change between now and then. You all know how the pandemic has been going on. Plans have been in place one day. The next week it changed. The next day, even the next hour. Sport events have changed just like that because of the pandemic. So the verdict's still out if SEC and ACC will pull off having their conference schedule. I don't think, but you never know.
And football brings in so much
money. That's why they're hesitant and waiting to the last minute. I mean, the NFL has not canceled theirs, and they don't have a bubble per se.
Right.
So we'll see how far they get into their season. But the verdict's still out. That's all I can say.
And speaking of the NFL, within a month, the first kickoff, and once again, no preseason games. It's going right into week 1. So within a month, you're supposed to have actual football. It feels differently because normally you see the training camp, you'll see the preseason games going on, and it just felt weird to me when I saw on Twitter how NFL on NBC had a tweet saying within 1 month kickoff begins. I'm like, wow, it just feels so different because it's 2020, this pandemic, it has changed everything. It's like all of a sudden football is about to be back. So it's wild.
It is wild. All I can say, the verdict is still out. It's just so much roller coaster. It's unpredictable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unpredictable, but predictable what'll happen just off of what has happened to our Cardinals and MLB.
Right.
If everyone, I know we talked about this last Wednesday as far as doing a bubble, but we see the NBA and MLS and NHL has worked. If you can kind of do it that way, you will be okay. But if you're going city to city, it's just waiting for a disaster.
Mm-hmm. All right, so going to the NBA, before we get into the games, I want to give a shout out to Steph Curry.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing some big things. As y'all see now, he's joining a very few select people on your screen. You see, along with himself, Dwayne Wade, Michael Jordan. Mm-hmm. He's a brand now.
He is. I mean, he's been a brand, but he's his own brand. Man, that's a whole other one. Yes, right. Buddy. Congratulations on him. Steph earned it. And to ink that deal with all that's going on, he's still handling his business. So shout out.
Now, for some people, they may be saying, "Who gonna buy some Dwayne Wades?" Because he got them, Ming Ling, whatever you call them. But
smart business move.
Exactly.
Because the number 2 economy in the world, China.
Yep.
You just need 100 million. It's 1 billion people in that country. Just 100 million. You can get much more money over there than in the United States. Smart business move. So, shout out.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Look, if it makes dollars, it makes sense. All right.
Now, going to the bubble, have you been seeing any more games since last week at all?
I have. And with the little rivalry, well, two big headlines between Dame Dollar.
Yes.
And P.G. George / Patrick Beverly, who was even on the bench. He wasn't even in the game. And the other one with Jimmy Butler.
Yes.
And, give me his name, help me.
Tip of the
From the Pacers.
Too. Right. People who's watching, y'all know what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
He's been balling.
Exactly.
Tip of the tongue as well. It'll come right back to me.
Right.
It'll come right back to me.
But those are the... actually, that's 2.5 and grab the headline. We already talked about Michael Porter Jr., but the boy has still clowning. Still. It's like, this is what all the hype was for, and he is proving it.
What is his name? We might have to go ahead and pull him up real quick. Here we go. T.J. Warren.
Thank
power
you.
Of Google. Thank you, internets. Because I had his name, but it just can't.
Like you said, tip of the tongue. I'm like, I can see it, but yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. So as we discussed last week, just seeing the intensity, not having a crowd, it is all about what's going on.
Yes.
In between the lines. The games has been incredible. As you brought up earlier, Dame Dollar has just been incredible.
Breaking records. And him and Will Chamberlain, the only people that scored 60 points 3 times in the season. I'm
crazy.
Like, whoa, Dame Dollar. I've never slept on Dame Dollar. I don't think anybody has. But sometimes he doesn't get enough respect because, see, last year, 2019, All-Star, he was left out the original roster, and then he got added.
Right.
And I was like, why? How? What? Yeah. So I see sometimes if he has to play with a chip on his shoulder because he feels like some people aren't giving him respect. But he has earned every last one of those points. He balls. He shows up to work, okay?
And you love the energy of him just taking it personal.
Yes.
Like this isn't the game. Like I didn't come to Orlando just to be here and enjoy some weather.
Exactly.
I want to
come
here. It's
not vacation. It's time to do some work.
The world.
Let me get that AC. Yeah. That's what we're working on, okay?
So speaking of seeding right now, in the East, Milwaukee has the number 1 spot. Mm-hmm. It's official. The playoff bracket for the East is out, so they will be playing the Orlando Magic. Mm-hmm. The Toronto Raptors, the defending champions, will be playing the Brooklyn Nets.
Okay.
Boston Celtics will be facing off against the 76ers. Now, this series would have been bigger to me, but because Ben Simmons is out,
he
had to have surgery to take out a part of his body from his knee. But then this matchup here, the 4 and 5, Miami and the Pacers. You talking about personal, like you said.
Man, oh man.
Give me buckets. T.J. Warren for a 7-game series.
Let's go.
This should be incredible.
Let's go.
And then going on to the West. Lakers have the number 1 seed. Mm-hmm. Clippers. Well, actually, let me go ahead and break this down. So we're still deciding, well, not we, but in the NBA, they are still deciding on who's going to actually win the 8th seed. And what I mean by that is, right now, Portland, after last night's victory, they have the 8th seed.
Correct.
But on your screen, you see Memphis Grizzlies, Suns, and the Spurs all a half game behind. what they're doing this year is that whoever is within the game of the 8 seed, there'll be a play-in game as well.
Yeah.
So kind of like a mini NCAA tournament.
Exactly.
Going on. In which, that's been the vibe I've gotten from this bubble. It's kind of been like an NCAA tournament feel. You know, having games back to back during the day.
All different. Day. I like it though, because anytime you wake up, take a nap, wake up, it's always an NBA game on. That's smart marketing and scheduling. I know they had to do it per se, but it's actually working.
Right.
And I like it. So as far as this Grizzlies, the Suns, and the Spurs, they're playing.
The Suns though.
Man.
Devin Booker. Oh my goodness.
I'm like, whoa. We knew he's talented. We knew he had it in him, but he's just taking it to a whole nother level.
Yes.
Like he's like playing like, I want my contract extension now. I'm like, y'all better give it to me.
Remember how LeBron James played in Game 6 against the Boston Celtics when he with the Heat?
Okay.
How he just all of a sudden transformed
and just
and
went
had that
to a
look
whole
to him.
nother in his eyes, and he just took over like.
That's how Devin Booker and Dame Dollar's playing right now. Just possessed.
And this is what we want to see. Yeah. We went all these months without basketball, and now we have it. And they are bringing it to us. You are entertaining me. Great job, fellas.
Shouts out to Purple Rain on our guest on our show last week with the Two Hearts, and did an incredible job on the show.
Excellent,
we got to bring her back just to talk about sports, man, because I was definitely impressed with what she brought to the table. So shouts out to you.
Yes.
Everyone watching right now, share this stream. If you're on Facebook, Twitter, on YouTube, just share the stream. Let's get more people in. Let's interact because our special guest coming up. She ready for y'all.
Yeah, buddy. She is ready.
But are y'all ready for her?
Because she said she don't have to get ready. She stays ready. All right.
And for those watching on Facebook, from my watch party or from our guests, you have to go to our page on Facebook and comment so we can interact with each and every one of y'all. We getting it in.
We getting it in.
We are getting it in. So with that being said, before we get to our guests, I brought up the Lakers earlier. Let me go ahead and bring up this
Lake Town, that the number 1 seed, been acting like they're 10 seed right now, but okay.
So the Clippers, number 2 seed, will be facing off against the Mavericks. Well, actually, they're playing tonight, the Clippers and the Nuggets. Mm-hmm. They're still battling for their 2nd and 3rd spot. Mm-hmm. But as of right now, it'll be Clippers and the Mavericks. Then you have Nuggets and the Jazz, and then Houston Rockets and Russell Westbrook's former team, the Thunder. Do you know how much that Chris Paul would love to stick it
and
to the
Rockets?
Rockets?
And I hope he gives it to him because people were sleeping on the Thunder. I mean, they just seem like the media, ESPN specifically, just putting them on notice. Right. Like, the Thunder's been here all season. I mean, before the pandemic. And it's just like they were started off bad that first month or so, but then they slowly getting it together and creeping up in the standings. And it's like, oh, they are good. Mm-hmm. They've been good all season. But, yeah, CP3 definitely wants to get back at the Rockets specifically hard. You know they didn't get along.
Yeah. So, now the Lakers. They have been playing to the best of their abilities. I know LeBron has been saying that because it's not the playoffs yet, that's not.
You said best. I'm looking at you because you said best of their ability. Their best, that's not that
you
bad.
You don't know, huh?
No.
You know, it's like, you don't think about it until you actually start seeing them play, but the effect of not having A.B. Bradley on that team, you know, takes away a little bit.
And KCP didn't play the other night either.
Yeah, because he's hurt, but he'll be back by playoff time.
Okay.
Now, they did say that Rondo could be back by the first round.
That?
It's crucial.
Man, over anybody. That is definitely their glue. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, Rondo, and we know how he plays, and people can talk about, he did it. Rondo, we know he's a champion from, over 10 years ago. He still has that fire, too. He is that glue. So when AD, LeBron, Kuzma, they can have their moments, Rondo is always steady in your glue there, unless he gets injured. Other than that, that's it. That's your boy. He holds them together. He holds people accountable. That's what they need. That's why when you said best, I'm like, They have not been playing their best. And
LeBron brought up after the game of the day that Kuzma has to be that third guy. So if him and AD aren't on, he has to be right there to pick up the slack.
He does. And basically, LeBron has to score 20-something, AD 20. If you don't get half the Lakers scores from those two, you're already in trouble. And then Kuzma, though, if he can be steady, then that can help pick up. If they have an off game, they'll be fine. But again, they're wanting more from Kuzma. He shows spurts, but then he's up and down with it. I don't know if he's going to be able to stay on this roster if he keeps doing it, though. Unless he doesn't mind being literally the sixth man. If he signed up for that, then have at it, Kuzma.
And Kuzma, he has that Mamba mentality to me, too. Like, he don't care who's on, who's with him on the court, who he's facing, whatever. He gonna score.
What did he tell you on that game winning shot? Right. If Jesus was in front, he would have shot the ball. I'm like, okay.
All right, y'all. The time is now. It's official. For a lot of other people who's watching for the first time, once again, thank you once again.
Yes, thank you.
We definitely appreciate it. But without any further ado,
got to get the people what they want.
There you go, the hashtag, get the people what they want. So this person, this woman, this legendary woman that we have here in the getaway, retired teacher, master mentor. I mean, not just the mentor, just you got to add the master in it. Like, that's how big time it is. Former district teacher of the year, track star, legend right now.
Put respect on that legend name.
All right. Put some respect, like Dane Dollar said, put some respect on my name. Everybody, let's go ahead and welcome on to the show. Without any further ado, Miss Roberta McWoods. How are you doing?
Welcome.
Thank you.
It is definitely a pleasure to have you on the show. How have you been?
I've been great. I've been telling everybody that I was supposed to be wearing this tonight.
Right.
But I decided I'm gonna let that go. I'm gonna just keep the mask on.
Okay.
And my brother said get off his Lakers.
And tell everybody, for those who may not know. Oh, there you go, right there. Shouts out to Guy Torrey.
Hey, Guy Torrey. Hey, LU.
Well, Joe went to LU.
Oh, sorry. That's right, Joe.
Guy was with that's right. Cedric at Southeast,
okay.
Got you. And then also, not just Guy, but you also have Joe Torrey as well.
Yeah.
There we go. And then we got a comment now from Jessica Williams.
Oh, that's my girl.
It says, rolls out the red carpet. There it is.
You know what? Jessica showed me so much love when she was here. It was amazing. And she just is finished her career, her 10-year career as a cheerleading coach at Kirkwood High School.
Okay.
And I had the amazing opportunity to coach her, which she was a dream to coach. The kind of athlete that every coach wants to be able to have. Very coachable, great family, and man, those are the kind of athletes that I have. A lot of those kind of athletes, actually.
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up because we got something that I want to go ahead and play. I'm going to do it later. Now that we're talking about Jessica for a minute, because she was the reason why you on this show now.
Yeah.
So I definitely appreciate her. But let's go ahead and play this clip of what she said about you.
Oh.
Oh.
Just how immersed I was in that culture. I had the absolute best coach that anybody could have. Roberta McWoods, she is a legend in her own right. She was an athlete at University of Missouri, Mizzou. And then when she came back here to St. Louis, she started coaching it. What I believe she's been the track coach there for well over 20 years. And so just the love of sports that she instilled in me, the tenacity, the fortitude, that attitude that you just have to keep going regardless of that pain, because that pain is temporary. So keep going. I mean, she absolutely played a vital role in how much I grew to love that sport.
Wow.
So how does it feel hearing that?
You know, it's very humbling to hear something like that, because I know most coaches, at least my coaching colleagues, you're not in it to get those kind of accolades. Mm-hmm. You're in it because of the love of the sport. Mm-hmm. And when that happens, that's just a bonus, that comes out of that. So to hear her say that, it's very humbling, and it's kind of no words to explain how that makes me feel, even. And that was a long time ago. And actually it's 35 years now. I actually missed last coaching season because of the pandemic. So it would have been, I just finished my 35th year.
Congratulations.
Nice.
Wow.
Thank you.
Now your brother already coming with the jokes.
Oh yeah.
He says Roberta wearing that Wakanda mask.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
I look beautiful in my Wakanda
Look,
mask.
I
Tell
am
'em.
ready. I got my Lysol.
Look, we can cheers to the Lysol.
We
Tell 'em
ain't playing
cheers.
over here, y'all. We're taking this Corona stuff serious.
That's right.
Cheers to the Clorox wipe. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, hey,
As we should. As we should.
Let's see, we have
platform mask here. Yeah.
We got some more comments. I think that says L Little says hey. Then we have Shonda Ambers Phillips. Roberta McWoods is an amazing coach, mentor, equity warrior, and friend. She rocks. There you go.
Thank you, Shonda.
There we go. Keep on coming with the comments,
Yeah.
y'all. Let's
Appreciate
have fun with it.
Let's go.
This show is all about y'all, and we definitely highlighting our special guest, the legendary Miss McWoods, in the building in the getaway.
Hey.
So we know that we're gonna do a crazy pandemic. How has that affected the previous track season that y'all recently had?
You know, last season was the first season for me, even as a track athlete, that I went through an entire spring with no track and field since I was 14 years old.
Wow.
Because I started competing in high school and then in college and coached all those years at Kirkwood High School. So it was the first spring I had, and it was interesting. It was not having to have that. So what I did actually, I had the opportunity to engage 2 days a week, set up a Zoom with my athletes and my coaching staff, and 2 days a week we did workouts. You know, we had all kinds of workouts that we did, and we added a little bit of motivation as well. So I have this thing that I call PMA, Positive Mental Attitude, that I have done for years with the track team. And I started in college with the college coach that I had, and we would, every Monday, we would take the entire track and field team, because I coached the boys and the girls, and we would all be in one room, and for the first 30 to 45 minutes, we just kind of do head work, you know, positive words, motivation, that kind of thing, because it's really from the neck up. It's all mental after you did everything you're supposed to do on the track. And so I kept that up during Zoom. So I started, once we found out we didn't have a season, then I asked the athletes, do you want to still keep doing this? Do we still want to keep getting on and doing core and doing fitness and doing cardio? And they needed that connection, so we kept it up. And I said, well, I'm going to add another component to it. Instead of me being the PMA, I'm going to invite some former athletes. So I reached way back and had athletes from all over the United States jumping in, Zooming with their children.
Oh,
and
wow.
we were doing all these different activities. And then I added 10 to 15 minutes of people that I respect and wanted to have as guest speakers. So I reached out to Ozzie Smith, and I reached out to Jackie Joyner Kersey, who's actually, we're the same age, ran against each other all through high school.
Wow,
Never
okay.
beat her. People always like, did you beat her?
Really?
No, never beat her. She's a phenomenal person, a phenomenal human being.
Okay.
She jumped right on it. I had Monica Adams from Channel 5. She's a fitness guru. She came on, had AD, the principal. I had Alvin Miller, who I think one day should get on here as a guest. Oh my God, I know I'm leaving people out. That's why I hate naming them. But we did that, and then we had a workout.
Okay.
And it was a way to stay in contact and engage, and we did that for 6 to 7 weeks, and then we kind of fizzled out. So it was tough not having an actual season.
Yeah. We have a comment here from, once again, your brother. Guy says a legend for sure. Michael Wise says Roberta is the absolute best, an unbelievable positive force for my kids. Helped them to compete at a high level, but to live on a higher level.
Wow. That family, they know how much I love and care about them. I was fortunate to coach 2 of their children who are phenomenal athletes. And that's what you like to hear from a parent, you know, because the way I see it, I have the ability to hire coaches, my assistant coaches. Okay. And the first thing that I do is give them the mission statement. And we have a mission statement that basically doesn't talk about winning, doesn't say we got to go to state meet. It basically says we want you to be change agents. You know, we want you to be great human beings. And I give that, the first thing I give to every coach that I get a chance to interview. And I said, tell me what this means. And if they can internalize that in a way that I think that they understand what this means to get to coach someone else's child, among other things that I look at, then, that's definitely somebody I want. So you say that because, the parents, like the Wise family and many other families, are, their children are, being exposed to you. And I think a coach has that responsibility, and in a lot of ways has more power than parents in some regards, and classroom teachers. And so I take that responsibility very seriously.
Nice. God says your coaching got high praise from NBA great Chauncey Billups.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. We Chauncey Billups opened a restaurant, pizza place. God, I can't even remember the name of it.
Got me hungry now.
All right.
I can't remember the name of it.
Blaze.
Yeah, Blaze. And that was 2-3 years ago, and it was the one in West County. And they wanted to kind of promote it. So since Kirkwood High School was close to that, the closest high school, athletic director came to me and he says, well, you have the largest group. We have like 200 kids on the track team.
Wow.
When we combine our boys and girls together.
That's a whole school in itself.
Yeah. so
School,
we packed our Macaulay Hall is what we call it. It's a hall. And he walked in there and he's like, all these people out for the track team? And I said, yeah, they're all on the track team. And he told his story. And he got a chance to talk about growing up and what it was like, and and they were so attentive listening to him tell his story. And actually he knows my brother Guy, so that we had small talk afterwards. But it was such a great thing to have somebody like that come and tell their story.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's good.
That's definitely awesome. We have more comments here. Said Jessica Williams says Jeremy Macklin. She will mention Macklin. Then God says the great coaches has mission statements. Phil Jackson had them. And then Lanita Manis.
Oh, that's my teammate from Mizzou.
Uh-oh.
She's out of New York. She's out of New York.
Tuning
Yeah.
in.
She agrees with you. So true. Get your mind right for success.
Yeah, Lanita was my teammate at Mizzou from New York. I think she still lives in New York right now, too. So
Okay.
we only kind of talked to her on Facebook. But
Shouts out New York. And to everyone else, wherever y'all at right now, shouts out to y'all for tuning in, watching the platform.
Thank you.
Sports Talk
Appreciate
Show.
it.
So before we continue on, last week when we had our special guest, Purple Rain, Dejanelle Freeman on, we had some history that happened in Missouri. So when you see this, how does it make you feel? Corey Bush, Kim Gardner, Tashara Jones, Kimberly Ann Collins, Angela Mosley, Alicia Kennedy winning their primary.
I said Missouri
last
Black
week.
Girl Magic.
that's just Black Girl
So we
Magic.
say,
It
yes.
always is awesome. And a little history on Kim Gardner. She ran track for Webster Groves. She was a distance runner. I was coaching the girls' side. I wasn't coaching the boys' side. She was phenomenal. Went to state. I can't remember how
Really?
well she did in state meet. I know she was either state champion or state finalist. But I remember hearing her name all the years that I coached, because Webster and Kirkwood are rivals.
Yeah.
And I remember her. She was a beast.
Really? Learn
Yeah.
something new every day.
Yeah.
Okay, Kim.
Yeah,
I hear you
she's a
cross
beast.
country star now.
Yep, that's right.
Attorney, yes,
She
ma'am.
was awesome. But to see that, yeah, and then the announcement today, yesterday, a couple of days ago with Kamala.
Right.
Those are if they're not legends yet, they're definitely on their way to being legends.
Right.
And it's so good to be able to see those kind of role models. All our kids need to see those. Black and white need to see that Black women are in these powerful positions.
As I told Purple Rain last week, I said it's like the world is noticing Black women now, but it's like we just didn't fall off the sky. We've
Right.
been here. We've
Right.
been doing work.
Right.
It's sometimes we put behind the scene or we're just putting the foreshadow, but we have been here.
Oh, yeah.
And now they're
Oh, yeah.
taking notice. Hey, we're coming with it. So
Right.
this is just the beginning. As you said, hopefully they can pioneer for more Black and white people to see we're here and we're about business and we're all about change.
Oh, amen. Amen.
Speak it. Speak it. So as I said on the post, as I had on the post, this is Ladies Night Part 2. So to get too into it with the ladies, I might just step away and just have you go on the show. And matter of fact, you may have your daughter just take my spot. Shouts out to Bria. She knows her stuff, y'all. I was impressed. We had a conversation earlier, and she knew about the old St. Louis NBA team. Talking
St.
about
Louis
if
and
they didn't mess
Hawks,
this
okay.
up, we could have had this. I was like, okay, you know what, we need to have
Yeah.
So-
Okay, you
so-
ready to grab a seat?
She's an NBA. Our family's heavily into NBA. So,
That's
yeah.
good. Hey,
Oh, yeah.
basketball, that's where it's at.
So, before we continue to go forward with everything that you're doing right now, you got to take it all the way back what age and when did you find your love for sports?
Oh wow. It was my freshman year. I mean, 8th grade, freshman year. I remember in 8th grade, we had a field day because that's kind of like a big thing that you do at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember they lined up all the girls, and it seemed like hundreds at the time. I'm sure it was not hundreds. And I remember the teacher or coach or whoever it was blew the whistle, and I took off running. It was like on the grass, just taking off. And I didn't win it. I got third. I remember I got a third place. In fact, still think I got that third place. But it was from that point on that I'm like, oh, okay, I can run. And I wasn't really interested in, I like watching other sports, but I wasn't really interested in the other team sports. And I had the opportunity to do that. And I'm a daughter of an Army brat, so my dad was in the Army. So we traveled all over the United States. And that was in South Carolina. And then when I was in St. Louis, but I've lived in Virginia and California and New York and then hit St. Louis. And I remember in St. Louis, I went to Sodan High School, product of PHL.
Okay.
And the cross country, at that time, you only needed 5 to score. I think it's like 7 now. You have to have 7. And there wasn't a girls' team. And distance is not my thing. But the boys' team needed another distance runner. They had 4. So they asked me to join. And I'm like, oh, it'd be good for you, get you in shape for track, you know. And I did. And I did really well. And I remember running in meets with all guys. And I was beating a lot of the guys.
Look at that. There you go.
And I remember this one meet down at Carondelet Park. And cross-country loops are all different wherever you go. And this one you had to run. The second time you run almost the same way, but then you have to detour. And I was beating a whole lot of guys, and I didn't know we were supposed to detour. And so I'm running way out of the path, and then finally somebody stopped me. People behind me the guys behind me weren't even telling me, you're going the wrong way. And I remember, anybody that does distance, like I mentioned Kim Gardner, distance is extremely challenging, and it's mental. It's heavily mental. And I could do it if I wanted to. I just wasn't interested in that. I was a heptathlete at Mizzou, so I did 7 events. It's mental, and that's why I try to teach my athletes that if you've done everything you can, if you've trained them to the best of their ability, then what's going to separate you between you and the next person? You're both standing on the same line. You got the same time. What's it going to take? Yeah, it's going to take your form and how hard you're going to do and how much you train, but it's also going to take that mental ability, how tough you are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, deep. So once again, for those watching, if you're watching on Facebook and we had a watch party going on, you got to comment under the platform Sports Talk Show so we can see your comments and questions and we can interact with each and every one of y'all. Guy says Angela Mosley went to VAP, so salute. Also says that your mother taught with Angela's mom.
Oh,
as well.
Okay. And I'm not sure who Angela Mosley is. I guess I'm trying to think who that is. Oh, somebody he just mentioned. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I did not know that. I'm sitting there like, huh? Okay.
Yep.
You're trying to bring it full circle for you.
My mom's a retired teacher as well. So.
Okay.
Wow, did not know that. Okay.
Then shouts out to Sarah. She says, "Girl power."
Which who was that?
Huh?
Who said that?
Oh, Sarah. Sarah de Mazier. There we go. My bad. If I had the last name wrong, I apologize, Sarah. Don't talk to me. I got you. She says girl power.
All right. Thank you.
So, you're playing track.
Running track.
Excuse me. I think I said that to Jessica. I'm like, no, it should be running track. So, you ran track. Who was there as your inspiration or someone who always is pushing you to be better?
It was more so my coach. I had some great teammates, but my coach is Linda Martin, who is amazing. I feel like I'm talking to Jessica now, talking about our coach. Well respect. You always respect your coaches. And she was someone that always had a lot of faith in you, and that's what your job is as a coach. You're always supposed to, try to lift your athletes up. Even when things don't go well, there's a way to tell them that it didn't go well, but you always try to lift them up. So my teammates around me, the boys and girls track team always work together, regardless if they were one team or not. So we had guy teammates. In fact, it was funny. Jessica's dad taught me how, not coached me. He's a couple years older than I am, but he taught me how to run hurdles.
Shouts out to Richie.
Yeah,
Richie Williams.
Richie taught me how to hurdle, and so when you're on a track team, and I guess the same would be if you're for swimming and some of those individual sports though, where you're kind of you put yourself on the line. You have your people around you that support you, So you had a little bit of everybody: your coach, your guy teammates, your girl teammates. Of course, parents are always there pushing you too. So.
Jean Meyer says the best coach.
Jean was my first state champion.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, congratulations, Jean.
History.
Jean Meyer. All
Jean is
right.
the reason we finished second in state, got our big old Final Four, second place. She won the 100-meter dash, the 200-meter dash.
Nice.
All right,
we either
Jean.
got second or third on the relays. I don't remember what we did because they all run together. That was back
some athletes.
back in
Shout out.
1994. Man, she was a heck of an athlete. She really
All right,
was.
Jean.
We have
You helped put her on the
Miller.
map for the first state champion, I should say.
Yeah.
We have Ramona Miller. She says Roberta's impact goes far beyond track and field in the Kirkwood School District.
Now it's I'm glad she brought that up because I did want to talk a little bit about equity. So Ramona Miller is the mother of Lauren Miller, who's the UCA athlete that I really think you should get in here. She's missing her season right about now, but a phenomenal athlete, and her dad as well was a phenomenal athlete. And Ramona is the administrator at Kirkwood High School, the only African American administrator at Kirkwood High School. And she's on a team with myself, and I think Dr. Shonda Ambers Phillips logged in, and we put together a peace walk in Kirkwood High School. It was more like the protest walk. We did that and had 4,000 people there. And so part of my mentoring, my master mentor, I work with teachers of color. I work with principals. I work with anyone that really wants to be on the equity journey. And so I've been spending a lot of COVID time right now between being on lots of Zooms, talking about, equity, educational equity and what it should look like, because we got a lot of it going on right now. Inequity is going on right now because of the pandemic, with schools not having the right technology. So I've been doing lots of Zoom, listening to a lot of webinars. I've been doing this work actually since 1985, in addition to teaching. But I've got great colleagues like Ramona Miller and Shonda Ambers Phillips, and we can go on, that really are passionate about Black and brown students. And we want to make sure that our Black and brown students don't fail. And Kirkwood is a place that needs extra support for our Black and brown students.
Jessica says, I agree with Mrs. Miller. You should definitely discuss her impact on cultural diversity awareness within the district and neighboring districts as well.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't, I've had the luxury of going to other districts and making presentations and talking to superintendents. We have a unique group in Kirkwood. It's called the Kirkwood Teachers of Color. So when I retired, about 3 years after I retired, I was asked to be a support for our teachers of color. And it's phenomenal because when you're in a district like Kirkwood that's predominantly white, a lot of times you just as a teacher may not be aware of what's accepted, because you're going to get judged under a different standard. And so what we do is what I do is provide professional development to kind of focus on those things to help teachers feel confident, because they've got it all there. But a lot of times if you're not used to being in an environment like that, you start second guessing yourself. And in other ways, you have to deal with microaggressions, and you have to deal with, there's some racism, because racism is everywhere. I wouldn't say that it's not in Kirkwood. It's everywhere, everywhere you go. But we want our teachers to be there and be there a long time, and so in order to be there a long time, you got to provide support. And that's what I try to do with the support of the district, giving me the support to be able to have that leeway.
It sounds like the Kirkwood School District to hire you as a consultant of diversity and inclusion.
That's funny. Well, we've been talking about that.
It's necessary.
But I'll be honest with you. I mean, this is a paid position for me, but it's not like big salary. But I particularly don't really want that. I am retired, and I love coaching.
He's like, I want to
Seriously. But that is a lot of districts are doing that.
And
particularly now, since the George Floyd unemployed has come up
Yes.
because
And
I think
corporations,
a lot of
yeah.
them are feeling ill-equipped. Like, you know, like, whoa, I didn't know this. And so we've been doing,
What can we do to make this?
Well, we have the answer.
Oh, now,
Yeah.
now you okay? Now you want to get at me? I'm all retired in my term.
Yeah.
Now you want to get at me?
But since you're retired, she can groom the next person.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm
That's
grooming.
what I like to
I'm
hear.
grooming. see?
Yes,
I can still
yes.
sleep to 10 o'clock and get up and groom
Right.
between
Okay,
12,
okay.
whatever,
Man,
you know.
your coaching whistle never hangs up.
No,
does it?
no,
Okay. You just
no.
coaching and mentoring along.
Yeah,
You retired.
yeah.
All right.
Same thing. Yeah.
So, you said that you went to Sodan.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of running track and field, was there any other sports that you like to play, or that you did play?
No, I would just, like I said, I loved watching other sports, but I don't know if this is the way I was wired. I'm not exactly a team sport person. I'm an individual. I know that
Okay.
sounds a little narcissistic a little bit, but I love the one-on-one, you know.
Okay.
I love watching most sports. I'm not a big golf fan. I can handle tennis. I love watching swimming. I told you my son plays soccer over in Europe, so soccer. Basketball, we're a basketball family. Football, baseball, it's okay. But me personally, I just love that track experience because there's so much. Jessica mentioned that too. There's so much you learn on the track. I know the swim coach is probably going to say the same thing, but on the track, when you look at that, and what's interesting is you look at athletes that play football and play basketball and then they run track. It's a different type of learning that comes that they don't get in football and they don't get in basketball. One, you got to be courageous because you're stepping up there on the line by yourself. Even if you're on a relay, you got to be by yourself. If you're going to high jump, long jump, triple jump, whatever, you're by yourself. What does that tell you about that person? You know, that they're courageous enough to do that, you know, because you really have to kind of put your pride aside because, you know, kids laugh at each other. Oh, you got last place, blah, 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 blah. That kind of thing kind of happened, you know, but that builds character, you know. And when you talk about does sports build character, that's only if the coach is intentionally setting it up so that you build character. You still have to face all the rules. One of the coaches I admire is Nino Fanoy, who's East St. Louis. He was Jackie Joyner's coach, and still coaching to this day. And I mean, as a high schooler, we go over there and get our butts kicked all the time. and we take our kids over there every now and then if the meet works out, and have some good competitive. But Nino's very disciplined. I remember there was a meet we had at our place, and we host a lot of really big meets. And I won't say the one school, but there's this one school that was kind of taunting.
Oh no, call them out. Call them out.
I'm not gonna do that.
Keep it 100.
You know what?
Call them out.
Actually, I could because they're not around anymore. Berkeley High School.
Oh, Berkeley, and I can see that.
And it wasn't McClure, South Berkeley. This was
just
Berkeley. And
Yeah.
they were going at it. And I don't know if you're a track and field person, but if you are, the relay that everybody looks forward to is the 4x4. That's the last
race.
run.
Yep.
And there has been some stuff early on going back and forth between them. I couldn't really say it's back and forth because Nino taught his athletes, you go, you warm up, and you come back and sit in the stands. And he would have like a tent in the stands, and everybody else is running around. You know, when you go to a meet, you see people warming up and stretching and laughing and talking and, you know, not always in the right headspace. Those girls do what they need to do their cool down, and go back and sit. He wouldn't have them running all over the place. And this particular time, there was some stuff going on. They were trying to edge them on. And Nino said, do your talking on the track.
Yep.
Do your talking on the track. But just discipline, you know, those are the kinds of things that you build into your program because they produce what my mission statement says, change agents. They produce athletes to, you know, go on and be bigger and better things in life. And I feel really good about when an athlete says, I'm a lawyer now, I'm a doctor now. You know, I have had one graduate from Princeton and two that are at Princeton now, you know, but then you may have some that go to the junior college, and that's fine too, you know, but you want to equip them to be able to handle whatever they need in life. It's a life skill that you're teaching and coaching.
Guy Torrey says track actually prepared him for stand-up. Mentally, it prepared him.
Yeah, a lot. It's funny because I talk to a lot of people that would say, you know, until you run track, you really don't know how much preparation that does for you. You know, I mentioned I have a son that plays soccer in Europe, and he's played district championship basketball games, and he's played a lot of big soccer games. But he said track is the one thing that he will always remember that will help him connect with his head, you know, because it messes with you. You know, it messes with you. And what I try to teach the athletes, that even though your body's saying you're tired, stop, you got more in you. But for you to dig deep, you got to practice that, and you got to, you know, that's something you got to do. It doesn't just come. You can't just, you see sometimes athletes just give up. But if you teach them the mental side of it, and they can do a ton of things, they can just continue to move on and on. And I don't do that just by myself. I read a lot of books. There's a guy named Joe Ehrman who he's actually an old football guy, that talks about, you know, that transactional athlete and that transformational athlete. So you try to teach the athlete what you want to get out of life, and you coach that, you know. And I know sometimes that people aren't big believers in that, the mental side of it, but it's huge.
Oh, yeah.
And so sometimes freshmen don't really buy into that. They don't know that yet. You know, like, okay, what is that? So when we spend 30 to 45 minutes every single Monday before we see the track, sitting there talking about words of the week and showing video and talking about thinking through your writing goals, those to me are more important than being on that track those first 40 minutes. Because what's going to happen is they're going to go down on the track, or they're going to go into the ring where they're going to throw, or they're going to be jumping or whatever, and they're going to have some self-talk. They have to talk to themselves. And if you haven't practiced that, if you haven't really taught them how to do that, you see people choke all the time. You know, and a lot of times they choke because they have not learned how to self-talk and how to help themselves mentally. So it's a life skill.
So for those who have watched Biker Boys, you know, with Lawrence Fishburne and Derek Luke, etc., I believe every time, who was the character? Was Lawrence Fishburne? He would always, like, pretty much had this tunnel vision before a race. Like, you don't see nothing else but pretty much that finish line, where your destination is, where you end up at. Is that how you pretty much take it with track? You
can. We've done some visualization techniques.
Okay.
Sometimes when you get to that level, it's later in the season for my athletes that are going on to the district sectionals and state championship meets. So it's kind of a progression of what you teach, but I've gone as far as writing a script out and having them all lay flat, and I got some motivational music behind them, and I've got this script, and I'm like, you're getting off the bus, you know, and you can see, you know, the fans in the stands, and you're warming up. I mean, just visually go through that. And like when we go to the state meet every year, we go up early, and they walk the track and visualize. I said, stands are empty now, but tomorrow's going to be a different story. You got to be focused in your lane. There's a young lady, I forgot to tell her to watch. I should have told her to watch. She could have told the story better than I did. Her name is Shiraz Gorman. She's an activist now.
Somebody tag her. Somebody tag her right now and say, watch this show, so she can add the story to it.
There you go.
Shiraz Gorman, Gormon, is an activist right now. And I saw her, she's an author too, write books and just doing phenomenal work. Had her on as a speaker earlier this summer. But I hadn't seen her since high school, and it was like maybe 15 years later. And she had written a book and was doing a party, an author's, like a writing, what do you call those when you?
Book signing?
Book signing, yeah, couldn't think about that. And I said, I'm going to surprise her. I'm going to go down there. It was Left Bank Books, and I went down there, and I rolled down the window, and she was like, ah, you know. So I got in there, and I sat in the front row, and she started talking about her book, and then she stopped and started crying. And I was like, oh, wow, I wonder what's going on. And she said, my coach is sitting right here. And she just started bawling, and she started talking about something that I said that don't even remember that I said, but I'm sure I did say that. And she just said, talk about, I made a kind of a connection between staying in your lane, you know, and how that applies to life as well. And that, again, that tells you the power of words.
Right.
You know, no matter if you're an adult, a parent, or a coach, our words have power. And you have to watch what you say, because you never know how it's going to come back to you.
Right.
you use it in a way that belittles or demeans, they'll remember that.
It's kind of like the visual aspect of people using social media. Like, realize what you're saying before you hit send.
Yes.
You know, proofread what you're saying before you hit send.
Yeah.
So I was having a conversation recently. Like, sometimes our initial reaction, reflex, can be the worst decision if you lash out.
Yeah.
Sit back for a minute, take
Self-control.
time to think about it
Yeah,
before you
control.
go ahead and boom, it's out there now.
yeah.
And you
It's an
can't
issue.
retract
Can't
it,
take
right?
it
So yeah,
back.
self-control, and that's I know you teach your athletes that you have to be controlled and disciplined.
Oh yeah. And the thing is, after you've taken that time and processed it, later you don't even remember what it was about.
Exactly.
What
Time
you were
went
gonna
on
say,
and
you
went
know?
past that situation.
Especially in this climate now, because there's so
Right.
much politically going on that you just want to lash out and say something, but it won't solve anything. You
You
know?
know, prime example, as you brought up earlier, with Kamala Harris. Everybody was lashing out because of what she may have done in the past. You know, there's no one in this world perfect.
No.
You know, every night you're talking about political and who to
No.
vote for, whatever, but not Trump. But anyway, but at the same token, appreciate that she now has this platform to change things for the future.
Yeah.
You know, we don't try to compare her with Michelle Obama. No one else will be.
No.
You know, but at the same token, right now, let's focus on, okay, we have someone here that could possibly change the game.
Yeah.
So let's just appreciate that. Let's be behind it.
Right.
Let's work for not going through what we're going through again.
Right.
For the next
Right.
4 years.
There's nothing you could say about her that would compare to what is going on with number 45 right now. I mean, there's nothing.
Correct.
Everybody has a past. Everybody has a past. And regardless of, she did this, I don't like that, you know, if there's no reason why we shouldn't get behind her at this point.
And let's see, we have some more comments here. Let's go. Guy Torrey says Berkeley was a beast. He shouts out Rick Stovall. He says also Coach Stagg. He was saying facts to what you mentioned earlier. He says you play/run, how you prepare. In his case, you perform, how you practice, and stand up.
That's correct.
Jessica Williams says, I don't know if Coach will remember telling us this, but it stuck with me, and I always told my cheerleaders this as we prep for pep rallies. Performance is 90%, visualization, 10% execution.
Yeah, she's right.
Yeah, I just stuck
She's
with her.
right,
See,
I tell you.
you embedded all these phrases and quotes to your
you know, and just think about that. Thank you, Jessica. I'm glad you remembered those things. It's just think about a parent and their child, and you know, things that you lash out and you say to them that you think they're not, you know, paying attention to, but they, what my brother calls it, eye gates and ear gates pick all of that up. You know, you really have to be a model. I'm not saying that we have to be perfect, but we have to be a model. I'm excited that we have a new head basketball coach coming to Kirkwood High School.
Shouts out Jimmy McKinney.
B-side, right?
B-side.
And so Jessica's gone now. So there were two head African American coaches, and I say that because even if Kirkwood is predominantly white, our white kids need to see people of color in power. They need to see that we can be in leadership roles as well. And with that, I think you have to model that. I mean, our kids need to see that we can model that kind of behavior, that you're going to be fair. And that's probably the biggest thing for me, is to always try to be fair. Anybody that has ran under me know that I have no favorites.
Oh, good.
I have no favorites. I mean, there are certain things I like about athletes and certain things I may dislike. But I'm not going to favor you because you're my state champion. I'm not going to favor you. And I've had scenarios. I remember, I definitely won't say this name, but I had
Call him out now.
Nope. I had a stud. I had lots of studs, but this young lady was a stud, and I think we always used to we always warm up inside the stadium, and sometimes on meet days I'll say, okay, just go and do a campus loop, you know. But I really wanted to, because we're getting down to state, and I really wanted to watch how they warmed up. So I said, okay, I want you all to stay in the stadium to warm up today. And they kind of wanted to go out for whatever reason to do their jog around. I don't know, whatever. And they were real, this is when I was coaching just a girl, they're pretty reliable. And so they sent the stud to ask me, hey, coach, do you think we can probably not do our warm up inside the stadium day? Can we? And I guess they figured, I'm like, because she's on point all the time, warmed up, stretched, did just classic discipline. And I said, and it was after another athlete had came and asked me, and I said, no, we're going to stay inside. So they sent her, and I said, did you not just hear what no, we're not doing that.
Don't you do it. Don't you do it.
So, see, I'm waiting for the part where she's going to say, you know what, do this and add this to it.
I didn't. I just reiterated what I said because I knew, I saw it coming. You know what I mean? I saw that. And then what coaches do when they do things like that, they're telling somebody else, you're not as important. I'm going to listen to her because she's the stud, and I'm not going to listen to you because maybe you aren't the number one, athlete. Be consistent all the way through, and I say, and they know, I tell them this all the time, even now coaching the guys. I've been with the guys program now 10 years as well. We have a combined coaching staff.
Okay.
Which many schools have gone to that, which is great. You share a lot of resources. And then I have actually 11 other coaches, and we just fan out and do our thing. And you got to be consistent all the way through with the guys and the girls. You really can't show any difference in that, how you teach, how you coach the girls, you coach the guys the same exact way. You just have to be consistent, and that's what needs to be done all across the board in all sports.
Alice Williams says, one suggestion I read a long time ago was to read what you wrote aloud before you send it. It's amazing how many times you'll say to yourself, wow, I didn't realize how that sounded. Then someone who knows you says, hi, buddy.
That's my brother. Hey, Gino.
Stanley. Then Jessica says, OMG, campus loop equals PTSD for a sprinter.
So
for those who not aware, just explain campus loop if you don't mind.
So if you haven't been to Kirkwood High School is a campus. It looks like a mini community college. It's spread out. It's gorgeous. I mean, and if you haven't been there lately, it's actually even bigger than when Jessica was there because we didn't have a swimming pool. We got a swimming pool, a lot of stuff. But so a campus loop is about a mile, and it's not just sprinters don't like running anything too far.
Right.
Jessica was a 100-meter girl. I don't think she even liked the 200 much.
She said she wasn't doing all that long distance.
Yeah.
I ain't signed up for this now. Wait a minute.
She was fierce though. You put her first leg and she owned it. That was her thing. But a campus loop kind of warmed you up. You didn't want to do a whole lot before, but it warmed you up. You got a nice slow run in. You came back and you could stretch. So just means you run the campus. And to run that was probably actually even less than a mile, but that's what it was.
Nice.
Okay.
Once again, this is the Platform Sports Talk Show, your Wednesday night sports delight with yours truly Smooth along with
Bunny.
Stan will be here usually, but he hopefully will be back next week. So shouts out to you, Stan. Look forward to getting you back here, man, so we talk more sports with you, bro. 3 years strong doing this show. Make sure y'all give us a follow real quick on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Show us love. Let everybody know about this special show.
It's not a secret. We want everybody in the world.
Not everybody. Let everybody know about the Platform Sports Talk Show. So going back, tell us your experience at Soldan High School as a track star.
Well, the thing about Soldan High School, it was I told you I was, my dad was in the Army. So with that being in the Army, I went to school in New York, Queens, Jamaica, with a diverse group from, Puerto Ricans, African American, white. In California, a mixture of both. When I got to Soldan High School, it was all black, all African American. That was my first experience in an all African American school. In fact, 1980 was we were the last class that before they started the inner city busing. Before they started doing busing out the county. So for me, it was kind of I have always gotten along well with everybody, but I remember being when I first got there, it's like my sophomore year, and I would say something, people would turn around like, "You're not from here," I could tell the way I talk, and it just didn't. And it took me a little while to kind of adjust, but it didn't take long, and it's like it's like one big family. You know what I mean? It's like always being able to. I mean, the track atmosphere was phenomenal because that's just how we do. We get together. And it's like one big family reunion. Great coaches. And although the facilities weren't the best, because we'd go across the street to, it was called Enright. That was like the
still there.
Yeah, and it was a little cinder track, little dirt track.
Still there too.
I mean, nothing fancy, and you didn't know what you were missing, And then we'll go out to meets, and we would go to some meets. We didn't, the meets that I go to now and the disposal that I have in terms of taking kids to all these big meets, it's just like night and day. But you learn to me, that's another learning tool. You learn to be scrappy. You learn to adapt to what you have, and you go for it, and you don't take it for granted. And that's what I miss about like the PHL schools. The public high league for kids nowadays don't know how strong that league was. We have all the busing that take place, and it stripped the city of some really great athletes that are no longer there.
Kind of sounds like how the HBCUs had a lot of black talent that were there, and then slowly but surely, as we call them today, PWIs, predominantly white institutions, started getting the star athletes, and then our talent for HBCUs got watered down per se, or just less. As we say today, 5-star athletes are now at white institutions. It's like they took them out, and it's like, but the PHL, my father was a grad of Northwest High School. So all that old history of St. Louis, I have heard it all from him. And he told me how PHL used to be the league and the elite for all the sports, compared to the county schools. But PHL, if you were in the top 5 of any sport in PHL, you were really good. Not like you were going to state. So,
You're right. Yeah.
And the vibe that I take from, because I was, PHL as well for Sean. Shouts out, you know what it is. The vibe I get is PHL athletes always feel like they have a chip on their shoulder because they could be often overlooked because of being in the inner city. So that's just another added element to, you know what, if you're going to show out.
Yes.
If we go out to these, like you said,
predominantly white schools,
we're going to let y'all know what happens, what goes down here.
In the city,
Don't just think about because we in the city, it's just about violence and,
and there's not any smarter, educated
and
children.
Else. But no, we got some solid bona fide athletes, and we're going to show y'all what's happening.
Yeah, and you had some solid educators in those buildings.
Right.
You didn't, there's a big perception that, those schools aren't great.
Your brother.
I know. Don't stop reading whatever he's saying.
Come on. Go ahead, guy. What you saying now?
He said Sodan was blackity black. 2 bullet wound minimum.
Oh my goodness.
I know he's warming up.
He is silly.
So you gotta tell us how much of a factor or help were having younger brothers, Guy and Joe, while you was running track?
So my dad was in the military, and he was gone a lot when we were first growing up. So we learned to be very independent. We were that's just the way. We learned not to depend on other people unless you actually had to. And, Joe was, of course, older than Guy. So he was the one that kind of like, I know white people say the black sheep of the family. He's the white sheep of the family, so to speak. He was the one that was really, really funny, real smart, but always getting in trouble at school, that kind of thing. But out of fun, just being the class clown kind of thing. So that came, honestly, with him. And then Guy being the younger brother, I don't think he ever started off trying, was going to be a comedian. But when he went to LA, he had a chance to write for the Martin Lawrence show, and things just kind of picked up for them, But our whole family, really, you had to have a thick skin. Everything, you talk about joning on each other. That was 24/7.
Growing up with siblings, yes.
Yeah, you just learn to have a thick skin, and you just keep it moving, Richie would know, Richie was a good friend, and him and Joe always hit it off real well, but you just keep it moving. That's just how it is,
I'll keep
and I think in some regards that does help you when you go out.
It does.
You know, you don't. There's certain things you hear things, people say things and do things, and you're kind of like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I hear
you know?
worse and harder stuff at my house.
Thank you.
I'm
Yeah.
a middle child, so I was
Yeah.
in the middle. But my brother and sister, man.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Some sessions there.
So, as a youngster, were you considered a tomboy because you had?
Sorta.
Okay.
Yeah, I was sort of a tomboy for a long time, and you know, I'm still not girly girl. I mean, I like nice things and all, but I'm not. I've not been one to ever, you know, feel like I was kind of prissy or needed that kind of lifestyle. I'm content. I've always been pretty easy to please, you know. And then as I even got older, you know, I tend to focus on the necessities more than just the wants.
So was there a moment where you felt like, as a track star, that you arrived? Like, you know what, I finally got it now.
You know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. I try not to ever think that way. You know, because just like as I'm retired from Kirkwood School District, I have, and I'm saying this not to brag, but I'm saying it to not to say that I haven't arrived. Was a Kirkwood District Teacher of the Year. I got inducted to the Hall of Fame, the Missouri Track Coaches Association Hall of Fame, was recently, all of 2 weeks now, appointed to the National Federation of High School Sports Committee, and with a host of other things that come. But I don't ever like take that to my head, because I do know that as a woman of color, there's always something. You know what I mean? There's I don't want to say it's a target on your back, but I just try to be as humble as possible, because there's always that you're out there, and there's so many strikes against us as Black women. You know, health care and medical, and you know, just the way I was fortunate to be lead a book study with several of my colleagues, other moderators, and we finished a book. It was amazing. It's Ibram X. Kendi's How to Be an Anti-Racist. And right now, it's the biggest thing since sliced bread. People are reading it all over. And in fact, the NBA and WNBA are about to do a big platform with him and a bunch of other speakers.
Nice.
Okay.
And in it, he talks about Black girls and Black women in terms of just how we are perceived in society. And there's a lot of statistics in there that are, you know, I don't like to repeat, but, you know, Black girls are 5 times more likely to be suspended in schools. You know, we talk about the way young Black girls are their bodies are, and sometimes they tend to get treated as grown-ups when they're really not grown-ups, you know. So there's a lot of things that I think you need to kind of, for me, like I said, I don't ever feel like I've arrived, because I'm always learning.
Okay.
You know, I'm always growing. So it's not like, you know, because I get people ask me, like, how long are you going to keep doing this? You know, I'm like, been coaching 35 years, but I retired early. I retired at 52, you know. So, you know, I said, as long as I have my health, I'm going to keep coaching, you know. Or the day that I get up and it's time to go to practice, and I'm like, God, I don't want to do this anymore. It's time to go.
Yeah.
Because that's not fair to the athletes to be out there, you know, just because, you know, I can do it. It continue to be fun. And it's may have to, you know, help at the finish line. You may have to run the, you know, run a high jump off. You have to, you know, it's a lot of moving parts that go on in that. But once I'm in that element and we're hosting the meets, and I always have an amazing coaching staff. I mean, when I hire the right people to be with our athletes, they're good people. They're good human beings. Nobody's out there like, well, you're the head coach. You should be doing it. It's like, what do we need to do? You know, and the kids see that too. They see that cooperation, and it makes them want to do that. And that's what is amazing to see when I have some athletes at the end of practice would say, "Well, come and shake my hand. Thank you, coach, for the opportunity today." You know,
Yeah.
and so when you see that, you're like, wow, you know, that's a great feeling.
That's deep.
I have a question. Funny thing, I was just talking to my stylist earlier today. Shout out to Ebony. And
Quick plug.
well, Ebony and I were discussing. Her son only did one season of track.
Mm-hmm.
Track clubs. That's how I came
Okay.
out. My niece runs on a track club. She's with pals. And the question is, for one, I know a lot of parents in the area, when it comes to track clubs, have to spend around $500. And I was like, wow, for track? I'm like, your facility is only a track field, but here nor there. For a track athlete to be successful in high school and on, do you think they have to start young in track clubs, or could they become a walk-on by freshman year and still be successful?
You know, so I didn't start to high school, but I know there are a lot of programs where they start like Pee Wee, and that's good. I mean, it's good if they want that kind of discipline, but I wouldn't push them because it's a lot of work, it's a lot of dedication, and sometimes they're not developmentally ready for that kind of intense training, you know. And then a lot of times they get burned out when they start that early, you know, and by the time they get to high school. I've had athletes that have become, like Jean was logged on, that started right in high school, and I have had some that have started when they were younger and went to national meets and gone on through high school and have done really well. Clubs are great to have, and everything kind of costs. I mean, not as expensive as some things. Like soccer is, when you play club soccer, like my son played, it's a lot of money. You're forking out a lot of money. But a lot of times in track and field, it's paying the meet fees. You know, so you got to divide that up, and you know, sometimes you got to have oranges and apples and bananas and all this stuff. When parent, you know, there's a lot of things that you're paying for medals and stuff. It's still not as expensive as AAU basketball and some of those sort of, and football. You know, they have fundraisers and things like that. But I think what happens nowadays is that they're making kids specialize. So, like, some of the things that I run into, I have some of my football guys that also play basketball, and then they want to run track, and sometimes they do, and sometimes they have to make a choice because if they're good enough, they're playing AAU ball. And then there's a thing called 7-on-7 now, so it's like, football, Coach, I got 7-on-7. And you're like, oh my God, but you really don't need that to go to college, honestly. But they were like, I need it. They will find you. True. And then there's colleges that will say, I want you. I have had big Division I college coaches come down, stand on the edge of the track and watch because they want to see what they look like in another sport. And they encourage them to do another sport. And it's good to do another sport, not specialize. One, it's good for your mental piece to learn how to operate in another system. And two, it's good for your body because you tend to overwork the same muscles all the time when you're just doing. And they engrave in these kids and beat in their head, you got to keep doing this. Another sport makes you better for another sport. So I've been fortunate to be at a high school where the football coach says, hey, you need to be running track. You know, a lot of times they want to be in the weight room, lifting and getting stronger. And okay, that's good, but you're not flexible. Where do you learn your flexibility? You know, yeah, you can do some little light stretching on your own, but we warm up 45 minutes before we even start running. We have a full routine. If you're not warmed up after that, then you really are good and tired. You know, somebody mentioned Jeremy Macklin on here. I did not have the pleasure of coaching Jeremy Macklin because he didn't run track, and he's a phenomenal athlete, and we've talked a while back, and he goes, you know, I probably would have benefited if I'd ran track, only because you learn how to stretch. You know what I mean? You go through all the routine of knowing how to stretch your body so that you're not just doing a couple of things and then jumping out there. So, you know, there's a lot of great things that you can do by doing another sport. And there are, in fact, Ohio State had, I forgot how many athletes that also ran track.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You know, you can tell, and that's funny, Ezekiel Elliott, I had the pleasure of watching him as, you know, on the opposing team run at John Burroughs and watching him hurdle and do all those. And I've seen him hurdle on the gridiron, you know.
Right.
And he did track all those years as well. He wasn't he probably was in the weight room, but he was definitely benefiting on track and in the field. And you can tell the way he runs because you don't you don't learn how to really run effectively unless you've been taught and coached. And you usually get that in track and field because of all the drills that you do. And it becomes muscle memory. You know, you learn how to use your arms, you learn form, you learn how to hold your head, you know how to relax your shoulders, you know how to relax your body. all of that. And so you got a football player that goes out there and they're running and they got the ball. They're not going to get caught. But you get somebody that perhaps maybe didn't learn how to properly run and they're carrying, you have to carry the ball a certain way, but their arms are not here, they're down here, and they should be up here. Their neck is all the way up here, all these things. So,
breaking it down.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I get to sit in, I work our display board, which isn't the greatest display board. Kirkwood's got to get a new one. I would do that for the football games. And I get to see all the guys that are in the end zone are my guys.
Oh,
And if I see them looking back, I'm like, what were you looking back for?
Right.
She's
Yeah,
still
why would you
coaching,
chin
even
up?
another sport. She's
Yeah.
still coaching.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing in baseball. They always teach the runners that don't look back
Why
when
do
you
they
run.
still?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Always use your third base or first base
Base
coach.
coach.
Don't look back.
But they
when you
still
run.
do it, though. I don't understand it.
Yeah. I think it's a reflex.
that and maybe a creature of bad habits.
Yes.
Ah, true.
Because,
sure.
Because of not being, like you said earlier, not being properly taught all the time,
Yeah.
being pressed on. This is how you do it.
Right.
Okay.
So maybe some previous team you played on, it wasn't a big
Yeah.
emphasis. But then you get to a different team.
Yeah.
Now it's different. A few comments here. Richie says,
These two back and forth.
Yeah.
I saw. I was like,
two
Richie
guys
and
been-
guy, what are y'all doing?
him and Guy Tori, they've been going at it.
Man.
So he says he gave you lessons on how to run hurdles at Sodan, as you mentioned earlier.
Yes, I did. I gave you your props.
Then he wants to know. I guess he missed it earlier. How was it for you to coach his daughter years later?
Oh, yeah, you missed that.
Yeah.
Well, what I said earlier.
So rewind this earlier. I mean, later
Rewatch
on,
it,
Richie,
okay?
and
I'll
check
give you
out-
one sentence. I said she was very coachable, and that's a big respect, and I know that came from the way you and Georgette raised her. All very coachable, and that's the best thing that a coach wants for an athlete. I said a bunch of other stuff, but you missed out.
Then he
So
wants-
rewatch the show,
Then he
Richie.
wants to add on. He was a senior star hurler, and Roberta was a sophomore. At the time. And then I think God trying to shoot his shot with this lady named Mary from back in the day. So check out that conversation. You know who it is, huh?
Is Richie talking to him about Mary?
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah, they were back and
so
forth.
God
with it.
wants to
It's
know
like,
is she still fine?
that was
Yeah.
his sister. His.
Oh.
oh, that's why he's trying to shoot a shot. Okay.
Yeah. And then Richie
okay.
says she is fine and single.
Now he's trying to marry his sister. I'm like, hey, she's available.
God
God
said-
asked what 7-on-7 is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't know exactly, other than that's the latest thing that they do now. It's a 7-on-7 where kids go during the spring and
Right.
they play these 7-on-7 games. So it takes away from them, and they don't play that many, but it's coaches take kids and they do that, and it's not always the coach of the team because they're not supposed to, of the high school they're working with. It's usually a coach of a team that they've played with
Right.
coming up.
If y'all haven't seen it, go to Netflix and put in All American.
Oh,
That show.
They
Yes.
showed it.
Oh, yeah.
They showed it.
That show right
That
there.
show
with
is
Netflix.
amazing.
You know
And
what I'm talking about?
In the nutshell, the rules of 7-on-7 are simple. The games are 20 minutes, 7 players on each side of the ball, starting at the team's 40-yard line. So they kind of take away from the hands-on with tackles and
Right.
linemen.
Right.
Take those 4 pieces out, and there you go.
Yep. So far, this has been an incredible show.
It
do have to
has.
say thank you for first agreeing to come here. I know you
Yeah,
was
I
like
was
on the
like,
fence.
What?
I
Same old sports
truly
philosophy
felt-
right here.
Well, check it out. So originally when Jessica told me, I was like, okay, cool. And then COVID started getting a little thick, and I'm like, I don't know about that. I'm like, okay. So I said, I'm come. I was ready.
Oh yeah.
I had this.
I'm
Brand
thankful.
Brand new from Amazon. I'm not worried.
I'm thankful for it. Hey, thank you for even being ready because we don't want to get sick either.
Yeah, because it affects 3 out of 5 African
It
Americans.
does.
That's the
Our
whole thing is
community
that
is
I think people tend to forget that it's not just about you.
Yes.
Right.
Right. You may not be what's the word I can't think of it right now, but pretty much you have someone who it may not affect them as much.
Right.
But
Right.
if you get around someone else,
Yeah.
they're not the same as you.
Yeah.
So
Correct.
it's not about you.
No.
Yeah. Thank you for saying it. It's
Yeah.
not. And we don't know who they go to at home or who you live
Right.
with or
Right.
who you interact
Right.
with. So, Yeah.
So I said, okay, because I'm going to support Black.
Mm-hmm.
I want to support Black always.
Yay!
And I said, I'm not going to not come. You know, I'm going to support it because I think this is great. What you're doing is you found yourself a nice niche.
Yeah.
And
Yes, he
that's
has.
awesome. And
Thank you.
I will be following you from now on.
Oh,
Thank you. I
okay.
definitely appreciate that. Alice Williams says, I would think that track would improve their endurance as well. That you
Oh,
brought up
yes.
earlier.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, this young man who's had a tragedy in his life a couple years ago, or last year, is Antonio Phillips, who ran track for me, and he's plays football at Ball State, and sent me a text during his freshman year when he went to Ball State, and he said, Coach McWoods, thank you. I was so fit when I got there. You know, he had endurance, and he was ready because, you know, track ends in May, and he went off June, July, and he was there. And there's a difference. You can tell the difference if they run track in the spring, and even if they're going to high school to the next grade, that summer, they're in shape. They're fit, you know, versus somebody that didn't, you know. Going to the weight room is cool. I'm going to tell you, yeah, you can but you know, we go to the weight room too. But we're not there trying to muscle up. We're there trying to tone, trying to strengthen, but we're trying to get you faster if you're a sprinter. And of course, most of the football players are sprinters or jumpers or throwers. So.
And for all those leaving comments about the show, thank you very much. Definitely put in my heart and soul and everything into this right here.
So you want to ask Guy, but he won't be in. He won't be in here, but you can.
We can do it over the phone. We do phone interviews too. We take them on as long as you're accessible.
In the future, we're gonna be doing a lot of Zoom. So, Guy,
there we go.
Let's go ahead and link up. Jean Myers, thank you very much.
Jean, that's my girl, my first state champ.
Appreciate the love, Jean. Okay.
Guy says really good show, very insightful, engaging, and entertaining. Thank you once again.
Appreciate
information on the screen. Go ahead and like, subscribe on YouTube. Click on that bell because anytime it go live, you will be
live. No,
she ain't got it yet. Notified. So once again, go on YouTube, y'all. Look at the platform, Sports Talk Show. Subscribe. Click on that bell.
I'm still a newbie. I'll get it together. Y'all don't worry.
Thank you. You guys are awesome. So engaging.
So, as a star in Sodan, how many championships did y'all win?
On the girls' side, none when I was there.
Okay.
There were several on the guys' side that, you know, individual state champions. And that's the kind of thing, another thing with track and field, you can do a multiple, you know, put the team together and you add up to that. I've had 5 Final Four, never a team state champion, came really close, but we've had a second place, I've had 2 third place, I had a 4th place. And lots of individual state champions. So that's why it's good to have winners.
So it's basically similar like the Olympics, in which you'd have all your goals. Okay.
Yeah, and so if and this works in the Olympics, it works in college and high school. A first place is 10 points.
Okay.
So, and you usually score up to 8. So it goes 10, 8. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So even that person that finishes in 8th place, like in the finals, you get 1 point. And so those all add up, and that 1 point makes the difference. If it's between 2 teams and they really need that 1 point, you know. I actually recall we were hosting a meet, and it was between us and East St. Louis, who's gonna win it all.
Oh, they used to whoop on me.
Going
out in high school. Woo!
And one of my girls accidentally false started, and it was an accident. That's probably the only thing I get unnerved if somebody false starts, because we have a no false start in the state of Missouri. You false start, you're done.
What?
It's like the Olympics do it now. The Olympics do it now.
Yeah, I mean, because it can be annoying.
Yeah.
So she never have not done that, and I didn't chew her out. You know, I didn't say, hey, you know, we talked about it later and said, don't let this happen. And like if we were going to state or something like that. So we didn't get those points in there. So my poll voter, I had a girl that's poll voting, who I didn't even tell her, you have got to finish in the top 3 for us to win this.
No pressure.
I didn't say anything. I made my way over there, because you know it's like a 3-ring circus, and you have to kind of go everywhere to watch your athlete. And I think she ended up she either won it or got second, but she did, and our points were enough for us to win the meet.
And then it goes back to what you said before, how you train them in regards to having a tunnel vision mentality also. So everything that you've been teaching them, those different scenarios, everything, it prepares you for that particular moment.
Does.
You see it pay off when you need it.
We have seen athletes seated first in the state, and they would just fall completely apart when they get to the meet. When the meets were held, the state meet was for years held at Lincoln University in Stadium. And they moved it 3 years ago. And it's across the street to Jefferson City High School.
I still don't understand that why, but
politics. Exactly. And so you get 6,000 people at the state meet. And you can imagine being down and looking in the stands and 6,000 people are there.
And they're squished.
So you've got, they've got to be able to, I mean, if you're talking about relays and focus, Jessica can talk about that. You hit the baton, you missed the baton. We had a experience, I think it was our last year at Lincoln University. My team won the 4x2 relay team. Now, it was between Blue Springs, Hazelwood Central, and Kirkwood, right? Hazelwood Central came to my meet, and that same group of girls, they beat us by 50 meters, right? That was the same year. Later, we saw them again. We did some fine tuning. We were moving legs around, trying to, that's when that masterpiece comes, because, you can have the 4 fastest girls, doesn't mean you're going to win it, right? Because then it depends on a whole lot of technical stuff. So then we ran against them again. It might have been at our conference meet, I can't remember. And we lost by 20 meters.
Okay.
We got to the state meet, and they were there's 2 heats of 8, and we had to finish the top 8 times, go to finals. And so we didn't have them in our prelims, but we had them in our final heat. And I was like, okay, in order for us to be state champions in the 4x2, we're going to have to do some things. So I don't like changing legs around last minute like that, but we made some strategy in the exchange zone. You have 20 meters. Now it's came 30 meters this year, but we didn't get a chance to see what 30 meters looked like. So I just moved some kids around, and the girls, I said, okay, this is what you're going to do. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do that. Gun went off, and we were leading. Okay? Second leg, we were still leading. And by the time we got to the anchor leg, we were still leading, but I knew that Hazelwood Central was going to be coming, because I have to give it to them. But what happened, this last question is, the girl from Hazelwood Central saw us in the lead and took off too early before her girl could catch her. And she took off and kept going, and then she had to
slow down to get that baton. Slow down. That's that technique right there, makes a difference. And I'm at the top of the stands yelling, go! Because I'm like, I know homegirl was coming, but Blue Springs also had a tall sister on the end, and she was coming for her. She was rolling, but we made it to the finish line. But it was because we didn't necessarily have the fastest, and all those girls were fast. Technique. It was all about technique and concentration. That exchange is no joke.
Because if you lose your concentration, like, oh my God, I gotta go. Right. Instead of just say, this is what we practice. Let's do this.
And calm under pressure.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Julie Cohen says, awesome to listen to y'all tonight. Thank you very much, Julie.
Thank you, Julie. That's one of my buddies. We were moderating for a book study that I was just telling you about.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, thanks for tuning in.
Always great hearing you.
Thank you, Mike.
Dave, is that Canterworth?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. So Dave Canterworth is in Hawaii.
Oh, we got somebody from Hawaii.
Take us so we can go out there. If you don't mind, Dave.
I had the pleasure of being his assistant coach when I first started in Kirkwood. I was 23 years old, most laid-back head coach ever. We try to connect every time he comes to St. Louis and catch up with one another, although, I don't know, I wouldn't leave Hawaii to come to St. Louis. But Dave was an amazing human being and a great guy all around. So
he says that, let's see, that you had an impact on so many student athletes. You are so knowledgeable and even better person.
Aw, give her
Jessica says,
roses.
oh, yes. Richie asked the question, why do you think the USA Olympic sprint teams have so many problems with the baton exchange?
That's $1 million question.
No, it is, but I had the pleasure of asking, I can't remember who the sprint coach was at that time. So we have a big clinic in Columbia every year. It's the Missouri Track Coaches, Track and Field Cross Country Association Clinic. Every year we bring all these great Olympians and coaches in to collaborate and network and to learn. And all of a sudden his name totally escaped me. He was there as a guest speaker. The coach was older gentleman. And there's a Q&A, you know, and I went and I raised my hand and I said, so tell me what you guys just said. And he's like, who let you in the room? You know, he was kind of like thrown off because everybody was asking him all the little flowery questions. And I'm just like, what's going on?
Yeah.
You know,
it's great right to it here.
You know, I'm like, why do we keep dropping the baton? You know, and then eventually what he did say, and it's true, they never get a really chance to practice with one another because, you know, they're all from different parts of the United States and they're on different teams. And then a lot of times they change who's running based on if you got somebody that's in the 100 and they got a good chance of winning it. Well, maybe they will run the prelims, run the finals, and not run the prelims. Or somebody got hurt and they might be a better leg. You know, they run the 200. We're going to put a winner. So there's very little time to practice. And the 4x1 relay is, I told you, you can have the 4 fastest and still not win because it's technique. And not knowing your teammates. You may know them, but not competing and not practicing with them on a regular basis. Because it's all about how fast they take off. You know, you got to get to learn your person. That's why it's kind of hard to change relay teams, although you do it early in the season. But once you kind of get those legs together, because then you can kind of know, well, she's going to get out kind of slow, you know, so he may get out real fast. And so you have to really practice that enough to kind of know, and you have to kind of know what kind of endurance the person has coming in. They may be tired and you're taking off and you're trying to, you know, get it to them. You know, those things happen. And I don't know why that does not happen like with the Jamaican teams. But it certainly happens to us often.
So is it like how a quarterback is with his favorite wide receiver? He knows his target. He knows how he runs his route, how he's going to fake this person. So doing that technique with the relay handoff, you have to know your guy. If you only practice once, it's probably not going to end good. I got you.
So let's see here. So going to Mizzou, as you brought up earlier, were you heavily recruited? Or was it something you just want to go to and you shot your best shot and you?
Well, I wouldn't say heavily, but I ran club for a year. I ran with the Royal Knights. That used to be a big time.
They were.
I only ran 1 year summer track. Man, if you learn, summer track is no joke. So I got recruited for running the 400-meter hurdles, which is something that you don't have in high school at Mizzou. And at that time in the 80s, because I graduated in 1980, Mizzou didn't have a great relationship with African American athletes in St. Louis. There was always some sort of disconnect that was going on. Just as a recruiting, there were a lot of athletes that went to Mizzou, but there was always not the best relationship. And I did go, and I was recruited, and going to a school at that time was 25,000 students. It's at 35, 36 now. Not even 1,000 African Americans that were on campus. You know, so we all kind of knew each other. Everybody in that era, you know, that went to Mizzou with me now, we know each other really well. And so I was like, oh yeah, you know, so and so went to Mizzou. Yeah, you know, a campus that big, you think, okay, well I won't know everybody, but all the black people knew each other. I mean, we all knew because we didn't have many places to go to, you know, in the community is a college town, you know, so if there were any parties, they were all at the
Jeff City, Lincoln too.
Well, since my brother Joe went to Lincoln, you know, I had a chance to go down. That's where we went for homecoming because homecoming really wasn't for us. You know what I mean? Homecoming was like, okay, you know, it really didn't have a connection for us. So we would go down to Jefferson City and they would just pack the house. You know, they bring in these top entertainers and, you know, but
still, they do that.
But, you know, so, I mean, it is what it is because we made it. But I had the chance to go back. Actually, it was last year. last year I went back, and I get invited to go every year. They do this big thing on the field, and they invite all the alumni and stuff to come. I just haven't gone. It's just, you know what? That crowd is so big, and that football crowd is just.
It's a whole nother.
It is. Everybody's drunk.
Yeah.
And it's the driving, and I just don't enjoy that. I mean, I went to all the football games as an athlete, but I don't enjoy that. I don't want to be around that, so I don't go. But I decided on a humbug. My girlfriend, Felicia Hinton, who was a black cheerleader there, and she went through a whole lot of things being a black cheerleader, by the way. We jumped in the car last year and said, let's just go. We're going to go and we're going to come back. We're not going to stay because the Black Cultural Center, which was like a little one-room schoolhouse when we were there, it's now a nice brick and mortar, really nice. And they did a nice little setup for alumni. We were inside. They were outside. I was shocked when we stepped out because it was over and the game was going to be starting. We're going back to our car. And they just had the whole street. They had music. They were line dancing in the street, and all the black students. That kind of thing didn't go on when we were there. There's a lot more unity now, and it could be because of all the issues that they've had.
Yeah.
But I do consider it, my alma mater. And as far as the athletes all got along. The football players and the basketball players and the track and the volleyball, and we were all like one big family.
Good.
So, in comparison to Soldan, how was it being running track at Mizzou?
One thing I think that helped me, and I know it was a struggle for some, sometimes when you're in the city of St. Louis all the time, you're surrounded by all black people, and then you go, it could be like a culture shock. I think what helped me was having that prior experience of growing up, Army brat and being able to be around different people. You're suddenly sitting in a class and you're a 500. You have professors that some professors did cater to football and basketball players, but some of them didn't care. You got your work, you got your done, you show up, you leave. So you learn to balance that, and it was tough. I mean, really, training, going to class, going out of town for meets, coming back, you're tired. Getting ready Monday to train again. It was just on and on. And I really didn't have time to pledge anything. I had friends that pledged, but I was like, there's no way I'm gonna pledge and I'm gonna come back from a meet in Nebraska and have to get online. That wasn't my cup of tea. So you learn a lot on being in a really big campus like that because you test. It's a test of your resolve. Oh my gosh, I'm here at 25,000 people and this is work. The practices were hard, the class work piled up. That talk about discipline. That's something that you really need to have.
Okay.
So let's put yourself in a scouting report mindset. How would you scout report yourself?
Well, when I'm looking at, I'm gonna take it from a coaching perspective. When I'm looking at athletes, first thing I'm gonna try to find out what kind of student, what kind of student is Roberta. Grade wise, always did pretty well, so that was good. Okay, we got past that, so we don't have to worry about her struggling in school. What is she like? Is she coachable? Like I mentioned with Jessica's very coachable. Does she have problems with her coach? Well, found out she gets along great with her teammates. She gets along great with her coaches. What does she look like when she's, actually competing? Well, she works really hard. She does not give up. She has a lot of that bulldog sense, that tenacity, not giving up. You're not going to see her give up just because she's getting tired or get close to the finish line. She's going to fight through the end of that. And so with those qualities, it's like, okay, well, do I need that? Do I need a sprinter? Do I need a hurdler? Do I need a jumper? How versatile is she? Can she do other events? Well, she did 400-meter hurdles. She did, some sprint events. So she could probably be a heptathlete. And that's how I became a heptathlete because of those events. And then you kind of look at their mental. How is her mental? Does she have mental toughness? Yeah, I would say she had mental toughness. So that's how it recruit me.
And
Okay.
I take it the mental toughness came from being an Army brat, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. Having to move in the middle of the school year and go to another school.
Yeah. Yeah, so like pretty much a lot of things didn't even phase you.
No.
So you used to adapting to different environments all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
All
Ever
the time.
changing. Okay.
I feel like
that's
I'm a
good.
chameleon. I don't, I try not to let that stuff get to me.
So, go ahead. So your brother says you're the reason why he's a drunk. He says that guy says my first drink was with my sister in her dorm room, a California cooler, and now I'm a drunk.
Don't put that on her. Don't do you.
Really?
Don't do you. No.
Accept that on your own.
Guy also said 1980. Damn.
It's coming for you.
Oh,
I know. Like you talking about joning and sibling, so I get it.
Right,
Get it
right.
back and forth.
Richie Williams says, I know you were a baby. I came by the house and you were in a diaper.
Oh wow.
You mean your guy was?
No, Richie said that.
Oh, about who?
I take it you, Richie. Let us know.
Yeah, what is he talking about?
Right, it could be Guy.
I think he's the one drinking now.
That's it. Roberta's
See, Richie, he be drinking and blowing the whistle. That's too short. So.
Oh, blow your
Oh, he
whistle.
does. Yeah.
That's his thing. That's a family thing.
Yeah, I know. He hasn't posted in a while either.
Nah, he hasn't. You know, with they've been
Can't
going
we go
on.
to parties? That's right.
You got to do it in the confines of your own home. Blow the whistle in the basement.
Right. Make your own fun.
Jessica agrees with you in regards to the baton exchange. Said y'all got to the point in which they were so in sync that y'all did it. Well, you had a
Silently.
team doing.
Oh,
and
yeah.
silent
Oh,
exchanges.
so you don't have
Yeah.
to say stick or
No.
nothing. Y'all just, you feeling them, they grab it and go.
That I used the term in the 80s, and it's so funny because I use it now in the track, and the kids all laugh, and it's funky fresh. Like when the baton hits and it just snaps it, and you next person goes, I'm like, "Ooh, that was funky fresh," and they're like,
Yeah, that is.
and then they're
yeah.
like, when they do it, like, and I don't say like, "Coach, that wasn't funky fresh," and it's,
Oh.
because I've kind of coined that term now. But yeah, I mean,
good.
batons are it.
That's it.
They will make or break your
you.
relay team.
And the time too. I mean that
Yeah.
exchange, those few seconds makes a big difference.
Yes.
Richie did explain. I mean, correct myself. It was Guy
Oh,
that
okay.
he was referring to. So he's seeing Guy in his diaper.
Yeah, maybe not quite that young. but
That's
he's
quite a
young.
scene right there.
Glad that's not
Yeah.
breaking news.
Yeah.
Okay.
TMI.
TMI. All right, so we talked about your method that you preach, that you've executed as a coach. What led you to decide, you know what, I want to go ahead and be a coach?
Well, I remember at Mizzou as a freshman. I don't know if it was during my freshman year, but it was definitely during my 4 years at Mizzou that I thought I'm probably, because I was in education, so I knew it was a possibility. So I started saving like all my workouts. Coach would give us the workouts for the week, and I just started saving them because it wasn't like you had stuff from going online and all that stuff. I just got, and so when I graduated from Mizzou and got hired in Kirkwood, I asked, hey, you guys need a track coach, because at that time, Dave Canterworth, actually, he was one of the coaches. He was an assistant coach with another woman named Marla Jewel Lynch. They were two. Teams were smaller then. There's only two. And I said, I'll come help out. I'll volunteer. I mean, I loved it so much. I wasn't like trying to get paid. I was just like, oh, I'll do this. And I worked with the sprinters for a year. And then that next year, I was like, okay, I'll volunteer again. And I had an athletic director that was like, his name was Dale Collier. He was amazing. He said, no, we want you to get paid for this, to be an assistant. So then Marla left, Jewel Lynch left, and Dave became the head coach, and he was there for several years. And then he was leaving and going to Virginia, I think, at the time. He says, I recommended you for the position. I'm like, I don't want to be head coach. I didn't. And it was just mainly because I taught at the elementary level. And the elementary level gets out later than high school. And I mean, my main job was to be, a teacher. And I didn't want that responsibility in the paperwork. And so I said, so it's funny, Jean Myers, if she's still on there, had won state that year. And she was about to go off to college. She needed some transcripts sent, and she couldn't get anyone at the high school. So I called up to the high school and said, hey, we're trying to get some transcripts for Jean Myers. And I can't remember who, the principal or the AD, one of them said, hey, congratulations for taking the head coach job. And I'm like, I didn't take that job. Yeah. You know, we want you to do a job. I said, I'm not doing that job. And they talked me into it on the phone. So I said, okay, I'll do it for a year. By that time, I had been doing it for 7 years.
And now
it's now 35 years. So, wow.
Hey, what's that? 35 years later.
Yeah, exactly.
What a difference 1 year makes.
Yeah.
And Jane says she's still here.
Right.
Yep. Oh, all right, good. So Gene probably doesn't know the backstory on that. So then eventually I did that. And at that time, the principal, the next principal was Dave Holly. And we were kind of turbulent with our boys team. They were kind of having different coaches come in. And Dave saw the character building that was intentionally put in for the girls. And he kept asking me to take the position. I'm like, no, because my daughter was still in middle school. My son was elementary school. And actually, speaking of my daughter, she was a Miss State champion by that much.
Shouts out to Bria.
Yeah.
Shouts out to her.
1/100th of a second she missed from in the 300 hurdles. She was a beast. She was a beast out there. So it's great to have her.
That's okay, Bria. We still know you good, honey.
Yeah.
Shout out to that mask you're wearing too.
Yeah.
Kobe.
You do 300 sooner.
Yeah. So she blames it on me. But at any rate, he says, I really want you to take. So 3 years later, I said, okay, I'll take the boys program over. Let me think about how I want that to look. And I started thinking about, the design of it, having a head coach and a bunch of assistant coaches and started. And like I said, there aren't any different. I mean, there's differences, of course, we know, obvious differences with guys. I always laugh because I'm like, with girls, you're trying to always build them up. Like, you can do this, you can do that. I mean, guys, sometimes you have to take them down a notch. Like, okay, you're good, but wait a minute.
Too much dip in your chip.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the level. You got to sometimes bring them down a little bit and bring the girls up a little bit. But basically, same workouts kind of thing. And it's just been fun. I think they keep me young, too. So
Nice. Guy says, Bria.
All right. So I have a then and now question for you. Then in 1980?
when I graduated from high school.
Okay, so 80, 4 or 5 when you
I
started
graduated.
volunteering?
I was in Mizzou 5 years, so it was 1985.
85 when you started volunteering at Kirkwood?
Mm-hmm.
Then to now. Any techniques, what's biggest difference you see with track and field, whether girls or boys? Then and now.
I think the distractions that are with them. You know, they have a lot more distractions than they usually have, which means they have more choices of things. I mean, even in sports, like at our school, we have lacrosse, and you know, there's more things for them to do. There's more clubs for them to do. You know, sometimes you get into this debate about, you know, oh, kids nowadays and kids this days, and you know. I think there is some of that, you know, but I have not really changed the way I coach. So if you ask Jean Myers, back then I was still on her butt, you know, come on, let's do this, and it hasn't changed today. With the same athletes that I know, because when you see that in them, when you see that talent, and not always even about talent. I've had students athletes that are not very talented on the track. I mean, they just, you know, because the reason why we have 200 people come out on the track team is because we have a no-cut sport. We have 1,800 students in the high school. And so I take everybody. And my rule is you kind of practice every day. And I have an app that they have to check in every day. Because taking attendance for 200 people takes a long time. Effort and attitude. If you go to a meet and you're last every single time, you're going to get the same attention as someone that is a state champion. You know, you're out there, you're working hard, and that's why one of the things that I do is help them write goals. So a lot of times you can focus on the goals. You have kids that have said, okay, my goal is I want to be able to, their goal for the first meet, for those that never ran, might be, I want to be able to get the baton. I want to be able to finish a race. I want to be, you know, you may not put a time or something down. And then when you go back and check that goal, did you make that goal? Yes. Now you got a time. Now that's your time on the index card or wherever the sheet you're going to do. What's the next step? Let's see about dropping that time. So let's make it about your time. Let's not always make it about, I want to be first place. You know, you usually can get to that if they're still like on a championship level. Then you start saying, okay, if you want to be a state champion, this is what you're going to have to do. This is what your time's going to have to be. So I don't think I coached any differently then than I do now.
So you're consistent enough to where you have some of your former track athletes on the field, and someone could be like, "That's a Coach McWoods athlete. That's a Coach McWoods athlete," compared to a Coach Fenor or somebody else.
Yeah.
They know your athletes because of your consistency, what you embedded in them.
And I think it's mainly because of also demeanor and the way they carry themselves. One of the things I tell them that when you go to a meet, you have Kirkwood on your chest.
Okay.
So you out there cussing, acting a fool, doing something,
being
you know,
being a bad
that's
representation.
just like you're, you know, you see
Your
somebody on the
brand, as
street,
they say.
just like that's a reflection on the parents, right? But that's a reflection on me, you know. And I'm like, whoa, we're not here for that, you know. And so you can kind of and when coaches come to me and say, and we from time to time I get emails from parents from other teams that has said, my daughter was so and so, so and so, so and so, and this athlete from Kirkwood, I didn't know who they were, but they helped them do this, that, and the other. I mean, if someone takes the time to send an email to tell you that, because I said, you never know who's watching. And if you got athletes that are trying to go to that next level, and I'm not going to tell any stories with names,
Darn.
but I've had a few athletes at the state meet that have kind of showed themselves, and it wasn't pretty. And it was mainly because they didn't get to that champion level on the podium. You know, they got on the podium, which means you're all state, and that's cool. But you did something. Somebody from another one of the directors. And now I've done this long enough. I mean, you're using the word legendary, that they know that's a coach. That coach wants to know. Let's go see Coach McWoods, because that's not the character that I'd want to know. If my athlete's acting a fool, I want to know that. You know? And so I tell them, if I go to a meet and I see you're doing something and I've seen other schools do other things, and sometimes I'll go tell the coach, you know, I don't always, sometimes I may say to the athlete, hey, slow your roll, you know, or I may say, hey, check your athlete down there. They're doing something, because we have a lot of rules in track and field that are very unforgiving. You know, like you can't false start is one.
Right.
Okay. If you go across the finish line and you raise your shirt up, you're DQ'd.
Wow.
If you throw the stick, you know, like out of like, woo, we did it, and throw it out of happiness, you're DQ'd.
What?
Yes. You know about the lane violation. If you run out of your lane or step on the white line more than 3 consecutive steps, you're DQ'd. It is a very profanity. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can get DQ'd for that you don't in other sports.
Right.
You know, might be a technical or something.
Right, because
You do
people throw basketballs all the time in frustration. It's just a tee,
No.
and you still stay out there.
You could be disqualified and done. And if you're in
wow.
a relay team that do it, you're done.
Richie has a great question. You are a devout Catholic. When did you connect with the Spirit of God?
Well, yes, baptized Catholic, still Catholic. My faith is everything to me. And you know, when she talked about when do you feel like you've ever arrived? Well, probably when I get to heaven. That's probably when I feel like I've arrived,
Okay.
because my faith keeps me grounded. My faith tells me right now that this COVID, while everybody's freaking out about it, it's just a way that God's trying to get our attention.
Yes.
I've been telling people he
Been
has
saying
done
that.
that. Boy,
And-
you haven't
and-
heed the signs.
Yeah, I mean, when something has affected every single being on the face of this earth,
Yep.
and you're not taking it seriously,
Telling you, he's those
something's
signs.
wrong.
What's
You
that
know.
song? Slow down.
He put the world on notice, and if you ain't noticed,
Yeah.
something wrong with you.
I compare it to the song that was on Color Purple, when old girl was singing, God is trying to tell me something,
Yes.
and you're walking.
Yes.
I'm like, that's
Right
it.
now.
Right now. Yeah. Oh.
There you go. Take it to church.
Come
on, Richie. Come on, Richie. Let's go, Richie. We're taking it there. Michael Wise says, Roberta got both of my older kids to the state meet.
Okay.
One kid was sitting on the couch and now playing a spring sport.
Yes.
He ended up in the podium.
All
The other was
right.
a softball player, and she helped her do a second sport and loved it. They both walked by and just heard the voice and immediately said to her, hi, and we love her.
I got a story. Mike, thanks for bringing that up. He's right. His daughter, Sadie, phenomenal softball player. She's actually at SLOUIS. I think she's a senior, Mike. She's a senior this year? Oh, my gosh. Going her senior year. And we converted her to javelin. She started off, we were trying to figure out what's the best event for her, and it turns out that it was a javelin. Made it to the state meet, was a top 16 in the state. And then I remember talking to Sadie and saying, "What's your brother doing?" You know, football, basketball season was over. I think he did basketball that one year. I know it was over. He played football too. He was one of the quarterbacks, a really good quarterback for Kirkwood High School. And she said, "He's at home sitting on the couch." I'm like, "Give me your dad's number." And I called him up and introduced myself again and said, what is Cooper doing? He said, "He's not doing anything." I said, "He needs to come out for track and field." And he got him off the couch and came out his freshman year. I know he was hurt either sophomore year, somewhere in there he got hurt. But let me tell you this, out of everything I'm going to remember, because you remember stories about kiddos. So Cooper is a very intelligent, smart young man, attended Cornell, or it just missed freshman, going to be a sophomore, played football. I think he's now decided he's just going to focus on school. But he got hurt during the year and was a high jumper. And one of my coaches, really down to earth, actually best friend, coached the high jumpers. And he was also a triple jumper. And so I don't know if you know anything about triple jumping. It is very demanding on the legs. And he ran. So he was doing a lot. And he had a lot of lower leg issues. So his senior year, because he went to state his junior year and he got on the podium. I think he finished, I could be wrong. I'm getting old, Mike. I don't remember what he finished. I know he was in top 8. He was all state. Came back and really was in a contention to probably win the state championship in high jump. But he got hurt and didn't get to do triple jump. He was a state finalist in triple jump as well. But when he got to the state meet, we were there because we get there early on Thursday. And he hadn't really worked out much during the week. So we went over to the high jump and kind of doing our warm up and trying to see what he could do because the event was going to be the next day.
You said third.
Thank you. I want to say third.
He don't know.
Right.
He don't know.
I wanted to say third, and I'm like, "But was that right?" And I didn't. So anyway, so we get there, and I remember being on the apron, and there was a conversation he had with my coach, Coach Pinner, and he's like, "I think I can go from my left side, right side. You got to feed that to me, Mike." But it wasn't his normal jump leg that he would jump from. And there's a little bungee cord, so it wasn't the actual cord, the actual bar that was there. And he started jumping from the opposite side that he had been jumping on his whole time, right? And he was like, "Man, he doesn't look bad." But I'm like, who does that? I mean, who just all of a sudden is not jumping from the side that he's normally jumping? And got down there the next day, and he started jumping. And people that knew his name, Cooper Wise, because it was a big name in the state, people kind of follow that, kind of like, okay. And then they found out that he had been hurt, which was really awesome to see coaches and athletes like in awe that this young man was jumping from the opposite side. And he kept jumping and jumping. And although he didn't win it, he did become, and that was either got 7th or 8th in that time, but was a all-state finalist. That, to me, is the story of a lifetime. Because that does not happen. You know, you had guys coming down there that had been every year, coming down, and, you know, wasn't making it as far, and they're jumping from the same side every time, and he comes and jumps from the opposite side and still gets on the podium.
Wow.
Which tells me that he more than likely would have been a state champion. So that's that mental piece that you try to build all during the season, because he could have got there and says, "I can't do this. You know, what do you expect me to do? Blah, 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 blah." And he did it. So it went to the training. His family has continued to help him with, and the things that we tried to do to help him.
How important is going through failure being successful?
You know, setbacks and failures have to happen on every level. It's how you handle it. Because you can never expect that you're going to go, I mean, that's life in general. But as an athlete, you're going to have injuries. You're going to have some other issues that may come up. It could be financial. It could be personal on another level. how do you handle that setback? And it really is up to you how you handle it. And sometimes you're not going to handle it. And they cuts in other ways. They're angry. They're upset. But if you got a good parental support, sometimes a friend, a coach, that kind of help them talk them through that and not give up. I mean, think about it. There are so many athletes that, how many times that you hear people say, well, he was better, but this happened. Mm-hmm. And they never, man, I can't believe this, and then if they don't come back for them, sometimes there's a reason why. Because I'm one of these people that I believe there are no accidents in life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everything happens for a reason.
Yes.
So you need to teach your children, and athletes need to be taught how to come back from a setback.
Great answer. Great answer. Once again, this is the Platform Sports Talk Show, your Wednesday night sports delight. Make sure y'all share our pages, subscribe on YouTube, click on that bell. Follow us on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. Show us some love, y'all. Let everybody know about this special show we have in store. Once again, I am your boy Smooth, along with
Bunny
and special guest we have
Roberta McWoods,
legendary in guy Tori asked a great question earlier. He wasn't being silly on this one, but he asked earlier, how come you never decided to coach in college?
I actually had a couple offers to go coach at the college level. That wasn't anything that I really wanted to do. I know there was a time there's an offer that came to do being an assistant coach at Mizzou. Mm-hmm. I mean, my love is teaching. I love teaching, and I'm sure there's some opportunities that I could have as an assistant coach go, and maybe even on a smaller level even been head coach. But I love it. But my first love really was to be in the classroom.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And this way I get to do both, and then when I retire, still coach, is amazing.
So you had coaches that you show. The time was different. Nowadays you have so many distractions going on. Mm-hmm. How do you handle that with these kids nowadays? Because they can easily be influenced by their peers. Like I said, on social media, they see one thing, they get depressed. How are you able to manage these kids nowadays with during these times that we're going through?
The thing about that I believe that needs to happen more, and it doesn't happen in schools, is to teach media literacy in terms of being able to understand that what you see is not always true. And so that does not happen. There's not a course. It should be a graduation requirement now that you have to understand media content, because they see it and it does all kinds of things. It makes comparisons, like, oh, I need to be like this. It gives a very false sense to them about their life and somebody else's life. Like that, you talk about setbacks, well, they may not see this person ever having a setback, and they're comparing themselves, and then they have setbacks. And we've lost students, who have taken their own lives because they kind of think they're the only one going through something. And mental illness is definitely real and should be acknowledged. And so, for me, well, it's funny because the only thing that's changed, you asked me that earlier, is they come down and they have their phones in their hands. I'm like, what are you gonna do with your phone? If you don't put it in your locker, put it in my backpack. You can't be doing drills and it's in your back pocket and doing this, because I will take it and I will hold on to it. And it's just interesting that now is like a part of their body.
Right.
Extra hands sometimes it seems like, because it's just nasty.
And you tell them to be smart. There are many people that have made mistakes with social media, saying things about other people. And I've had conversations, one-on-one, or I guess bringing two people together, talking about things that he said, she said on phones. They could have a lot of distractions. So I don't allow it, to bring it down. It's not going to be there. I know they want it there, but lock it up. You feel it's going to get stolen, put it in your bag. But that's going to be there. And now we know that it's there. It's not something we can say is going to go away. It's not going away. And they have to learn to deal with it. That's why I said there needs to be classes on what content, is relevant. And that's still a grown person.
Yeah, have those same
that.
issues. But since you're going to be a consultant for Kirkwood
There
School District,
you
hey,
go.
we can bring that
Look
into
at
the
you.
curriculum. I don't want you to lose that sight because you have a very valid point with that. And media literacy, and especially how many times do we see with athletes now where when they big profile or they get drafted and all that talk and they bring up tweets and postings from 4 and 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, the mindset of your young person then, and they're a little more mature now. They have to retract. I didn't mean that. Media literacy makes a big difference if you learn early.
That's right.
So
Hey.
please don't lose sight of that and have them try to put that in the
won't do
curriculum
that.
somewhere,
I won't
okay?
do that. I keep
Especially,
talking
our
about it.
athletes of color, we always seem to get harsher treatment
Yes.
for a peer that did the same thing that's
Yeah.
a different color.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and that stuff doesn't go away. It's always there.
yes.
And for those watching for the first time, once again, if you are commenting and we can't see it, you have to comment under the platform Sports Talk Show so we can see your comment and we can interact with you. And then y'all been coming with some great questions and comments. These stories have been off the chain. Guy says great story about Cooper. He also says that's why faith is important in regards to failure. Richie has another incredible question. He says, what do you want people to remember about your legacy?
Oh wow. Well, I'm gonna say the same thing I said in 1992 when I became the district teacher of the year, and they interviewed some of my students, and this was elementary school, and says, "What do you like about Miss Tori?" Because I wasn't married then. She's fair. So I'm gonna say I want to be remembered as a fair person.
Okay.
Not someone that treats other people differently because of what they have. I am, though, however, partial to when people are kind to one another and, try to do the right thing, even though, like I said, when it comes to a coaching thing, they may not be your star. But I remember those things. So I said for me, it would be that that she's fair, that she tried to show them how a human being, how to give back and how to be this person to help others.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
Let's
Let's see here. Jessica Williams says this was so great. Coach rocks.
Thank you,
Such
Jessica.
an inspiration.
Those girls are gonna miss you too.
Yes, great. This has been an excellent show.
It has been.
We usually would have Joe Knowles talking about baseball and hockey, but unfortunately, she's not feeling too well tonight.
Yeah, I
she's
understand.
pregnant.
She's
So
pregnant. Carrying baby
she's
Joe.
She's going through it.
Hey,
Carrying baby Joe.
that.
So we will continue on with more baseball and hockey. I know earlier, Madam, show your shirt off to everybody real quick. The St. Louis Blues will be playing in the next 10 minutes. So I'll probably be up till like 1 in the morning watching hockey. They had like a 5 overtime game last night.
Yeah, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, Columbus Blue Jackets and the Tampa
That
Bay
was like
Lightning.
2 days in 1 day. Like 5 overtime, like that's a lot.
But hockey, the playoffs are officially here. Started yesterday, so good luck to the Blues. We'll talk more about that next week. The Cardinals, they still haven't played in like
It's
God
2
knows
weeks.
how
Literally,
long.
it's been 2 weeks, literally.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you gonna have a season?
I
What
don't
we
mean to
doing?
burst anybody's bubble. We are
You
not
won't.
having fall sports.
No,
Oh, yeah,
you're not
yeah.
bursting out because based
it's-
on what we were talking about earlier with the football, those 2 conferences for football, that's the biggest cash cow for sports. If they're
Right.
saying no, the writing's on the wall. But
Yeah.
again, we'll see.
We'll see.
The other conferences I know are going to fall into place. You cannot have those
No.
2 conferences and like, okay, we're not. It's more, as you talking about with the track club or track team, it's a lot of moving parts. So it's not just, I'm just coaching this one group or this one meet or one heat. It's a lot
Oh yeah.
behind the scenes too.
Oh yeah.
And so we know with sports, specifically football, a lot of coaches, a lot of assistants,
Yeah.
a lot of moving parts behind the scenes, and with traveling too, especially out of state. How are you going to try to do this during a pandemic and people still trying to get the numbers under
Right.
control? And we're humans first. Before you're just looking at the money and your cash cow, they're human beings. Those student athletes, there are someone's sons and daughters out
That's
there.
right.
Why would you want to put them in harm's way,
Right.
let alone those coaches as well? So, no.
And who's dying the most? It's people of color.
Yes.
And they still don't know and probably won't know the long-term effects once you've had COVID. unfortunately. There are, I don't want to call them side effects, but they are things that they are now attributing to having COVID. You know, you're fine. You know, you didn't have to go through all the things, a ventilator and all that. But there are things that they don't know yet. You know, I heard that NBA players, there's many of them don't have their taste back yet. You know, some of them aren't. There was a, I don't remember what team, this was just on last night. It was, I don't know if it was a quarterback, I can't remember, who's having some heart issues now because they are finding that COVID affects the heart. So there are some, it's way more serious than people thought. Today I was, went to the Schnucks in Richmond Heights, and because I had to run an errand over there. And there was there's that bread co, Panera Bread, right there next to the Esquire. And I thought about running in, but I didn't run in because I really didn't have time. But then I saw these young teenagers walking in with no mask. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going in there. That in itself is going to perpetuate and keep. Every time somebody doesn't want to wear a mask.
It's like being hard-headed, man.
Then you know what? There'll be no football.
And it's funny because last week, I took baby girl to a park nearby. How come she was the only kid that had a mask on? The only kid.
Some people
I was like, are you serious? The only kid that had a mask on. People got to take it serious because once again, it's not just about
I think it's some people, they need it to affect home, like straight up. If it's not them, the person living with them.
Then you have your mask on, you're going to have this on.
And then I said it's unfortunate that some people, to heed the warnings, they need to have it.
I'm ready for y'all.
If you had that on during this, I would not have been like, I wouldn't at all. I take everything serious. I mean, like I said, I had this, I didn't put it on, but I'm like, I've always carried represent our show.
Show it off. There it is. Show it off.
I represent us all the time. I'm just saying, stay masked up. As I tell you, stay masked. Like you say, stay prayed up. Stay masked up too.
There you go. That's right. You're exactly right.
Just stop being reckless, man, and just be smart and let's continue to just live our lives. You know, right now.
And what I think is remarkable to see some of these high-profile athletes, even college athletes, that are, I say high-profile, that are saying, I'm opting out.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this. You know, that they have put their health before anything else. And I think that, again, speaks to that particular athlete's character.
Shonda Amber Phillips says they know she cares in regards to yourself. No one can dispute that. Guy Tori says, go Blues. I was at Game 7 in Boston. Guy.
Yeah, he did go.
That's dope.
Thank you, Shonda.
That is dope, Guy.
I think he said he was one of the only black player that was there, and he was surrounded by Boston people, so he'd have to tell the story about that.
That means, Guy, we're waiting for you to come on the show. So let us know.
Yes, you got to come on the show and tell them about your experience when you went to the game.
And for those watching, if you know of an athlete, coach, anyone who you feel would be great to be on the show, please contact us. Once again, information on the bottom of your screen for Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Let us know so we can go and get them on so they can have their story be told. This, once again, has been an incredible show.
Oh,
yes,
thank you.
McWoods.
Thanks for allowing us to format
everything.
Thank you. Jessica says, I can attest to that in regards to COVID. She says, today I feel like I am breathing in cold air and realize it's residual from COVID.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So she just recently recovered from having it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you recovered, Jessica. But
Then Guy says, I told Cubs fans the Cardinals would be sick this year. I think his sick is probably different than what they're going through right now.
Right.
But hopefully, yes, Michael Wise, we plan on getting the Miller family on.
Yes.
So stay tuned for that.
Yes.
We have a list of guests from here going on to October. So we have a nice lineup in store. But going back to the Cardinals, we hope that they get one more negative test so then they can play by Saturday. So we'll see.
Yes.
But it's been crazy reports going on. But
from all sides, dugout side, front office side of the Cardinals. You just hear so many things. It's like, what? We just need negative test results so you all can play. Because watching sports again helps to get some new normalcy.
Sure.
We need it, you know.
So there has been college players that talking about I still want to play. You have guys like Nick Saban that's saying that football and other sports help these players stay away from going back home,
Yeah, I
where you
saw
could
that.
be, around violence and around this and that. So, as a coach, do you feel this is good for the game, for sports to not go on right now because of COVID?
To me, people are dying. So if people are dying from this, that should be the barometer right there. I realize that, and you're right. There are probably a ton of athletes that may be better off being away from. Let's just say St. Louis, the ones that live in St. Louis, everything that's popping
We
up
know
in St.
every
Louis right now.
night is something going there, literally.
So if it takes them
Daytime
out of that, then maybe there needs to be some sort of out of the box thinking about, okay, we can come here. You don't have to be at home, but we're not going to be practicing either. We need to
Okay.
quarantine. I think you have to think out the box with this. If that's the goal, that they're going to be safer there, then let them come there. But then that's their responsibility of being able to, they'll know they can't just go and party and they can't do that kind of thing, because, I mean, even if they're in their own hometown, whatever they were going to do there, they're going to do in the same spot.
True,
So
true.
no, I don't agree that you let things go on. When you look at, it's about money.
That's what we know.
We live in a
we have
capitalistic society. It's
money
always
over
about
people
money.
all day in this country,
You know,
unfortunately.
and the thing you got to look at too is, I'm not saying that these coaches don't care about these black bodies. They, but I do know that it's important for you to think about, okay, the rest of your life. If there are lingering effects, if there are things that can affect you the rest of their life, you can't just put sport over that. And there are some coaches that have said that. And those are the ones I think that are genuine coaches that care about them as a human being and not as a cash cow, and not because that's a body that I want to keep going.
Big Ten commissioner, shout out to him. He happens to be a brother man as well. He spoke on that yesterday. So he thought it was his best interest. So
And Richie, she did speak about Eric earlier, your son,
Oh,
soccer
yeah.
player,
Yeah,
playing
he's actually-
overseas.
He is in Malta, and he tested negative today for.
okay,
But
good.
two of his teammates did
Oh, wow.
have it. And they were supposed to start some preseason games this week, and that's not going to happen. So now he's being quarantined. For
So
2
how you
weeks.
taking it mentally?
It's long story. I'll try to make it short. So when my son graduated from college and decided he wanted to do Europe, he went to Estonia first. Estonia is like a stone's throw from Russia. Okay, so he went there, dealt with whatever goes through racism, being away from home, blah, blah, blah. Then he went to Hungary, and he's just been in Malta about a month now. Hungary was really racist, like really, really racist. And so the thing about that is that each of those moves, and now he's in Malta where there's lots of black folks, not lots, but they speak English. It's a warmer climate. There's a lot of other things that, it's the way that I raised him to be. You know what I mean? And like you talk about my faith, God's got him. So he knows that he's got to follow the rules that he needs to follow, and he has to deal with it. Oh, of course, he's an athlete and he's competitive, so he's not happy that he can't train right now. He's not happy at all, but he knows that he has to follow the rules.
Okay.
So
Nice. Guy says you got that riot gear shield on.
yes,
Oh my goodness.
I could go to Ferguson after that. I'm in Ferguson right now. So
You went too far from what happened back then.
So I could actually go there and be just fine, right?
Right.
Okay.
Be fitting right in. Ain't gonna get me that tear gas. All right, so everyone, next week we have Anthony Booker coming to the show. Former basketball star, went to McClure North. He also went to SIUC, the ST.LOUIS.
Okay.
Played also with Iowa State doing college, so I guess a year with ST.LOUIS, then went to Iowa State. Then he went overseas. Now he's a current sports and fitness instructor. He has his own academy.
Okay.
He's going to be on the show next week. It's going to be very exciting. Can't wait. Once again, this has been an incredible show. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Shout out to Coach McWoods. Look,
Well, thank you.
Look, she's close to me.
I got you. I got you.
Yeah. You want to show your Facebook?
Come
quick?
on, Miss Brick.
Look at her being
Oh.
shot. She don't want to show her face.
No, she doesn't.
That's all right, though. She got the sports on her tablet, though.
Oh,
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
With the Kobe.
Yeah,
yes, I
rocking
like
Kobe.
that. All right.
Yes,
Yeah. Oh,
yes.
yeah.
So, thank you once again.
Oh, my
Appreciate
pleasure.
it. So many jewels, so much information, including with education.
Yeah.
Please keep it going. Even though you're retired, you're not retired.
Nope.
I'm gonna
Nope.
hold you to that.
Nope.
Getting that the media literacy
Yeah,
class.
we'll
I'm holding
see
it to
about
you,
that.
Okay?
We'll see about that. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity and all those that were able to call in.
Yes.
Shout out.
Yeah, appreciate
Yes,
all our
thank you very
guests
much.
chiming in and chatting with us. We really appreciate it.
Love you. Love
Shouts out to everyone. Guy, let's go ahead and wrap, get you booked.
Yep.
And
you. A guy texted me at the end of the show and let me know what you want to do. I can be an exchange. I can give him your number and all that good stuff.
there it is.
All right.
And once again, if y'all know someone who needs to be on this show, our information on the screen. Follow us, leave us a message, and we got y'all. This is the Platform Sports Talk Show, your Wednesday night sports light with your boy Smooth, along with
Bunny.
Stan. Shouts out to you. Hope to see you next week.
All right,
and
Stan.
special guests.
Roberta McWoods.
When it's
Okay.
about sports.
It just
She,
no.
Come on, get it.
Dang that.
Get it. Come on.
It becomes our business.
And business just picked up, and we are out of here. Peace, y'all.
Peace.
Oh man,
fun.
I'm out.